There was almost not a vPub this week. Preparing for something that's happening at the weekend. At 6 o'clock on Saturday, just 2 days from now, we'll be bringing you, myself and Ralphie, will be bringing you what you've decided are going to be the winners for this year's Online Scotch Whisky Awards. There's a lot of stuff happening in the background, and all the prep and things like that meant that I'd kind of taken my eye off tonight and started to stress about what the topic was going to be and thinking, can I really do this? Of course I can do this. All we need is to hang out together, have some nice bottles of whiskey, some nice drams to talk about, and just relax in our little Thursday ring-fenced sacrosanct time. I'm looking forward to it like I do every week, and I'll see you in a second. Hello, whiskey folk. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the vPub. Welcome to a Thursday night. Welcome to a Thursday night that almost never happened, but I'm very glad it did. I'm comfortable sitting in front of you like I always am and looking forward to my wee Thursday night hangout. I hope you are too. Hope we've got something nice in a glass, and I hope you're sitting comfortably. I've got some tech issues tonight. I know it's a software issue. I'm pretty convinced it is. I've been playing around for the last hour or so, but the monitor screen that tells me what's happening and everything is flickering really quite violently. But I noticed on the live feed, and I was very, very hopeful that this would be the case. It looks okay. Maybe it looks a wee bit dark or something, and I don't know if the camera's off, but it's fine. There's no flicker, so I think we're okay. So I'll switch that off just now. I don't need to see myself. Put that away. And if you do get any technical issues, you can flag, bring it to my attention or whatever, and see if we can do anything about it. But welcome, everyone. Welcome to the vPub. Welcome to your Thursday night. I hope you're all doing very, very well. As you know, I've got a topic list that runs for the vPub, and I tend to try and run a few weeks in advance. You know, it's always flexible, and I'm regularly pushing things out, mostly because I go off the idea of the topic. Or, you know, a guest doesn't quite work out, we have to shuffle things around, whatever it is. But I tend to have some kind of core thing that I'm going to talk about, and I tend to build up bottles and things to support the topics at times. But after the week's holiday last week, by the way, thank you very much to Pete for hosting the pop-up vPub while I was away. Fantastic stuff to see him and Rob hanging out and having that fantastic discussion about brands and whiskey and the liquid inside the bottle. Fantastic session that they put together, and I'm very, very grateful to them both. Thanks, Pete. Thanks for putting that together, and well done, Rob. Cheers. So after the break I had last week, just come back into this week, just kind of looking at the OSWAs, sorting out dram face and things like that, and more than anything, looking at everything that's happening over the Glasgow Whisky Festival weekend that's only just a few days away now. Realised that it might be difficult for me to carve out a decent topic tonight. Then I realised I've got all of these bottles here that I've been collecting over the last couple of months. I don't have a specific topic for any of these bottles here, nor do I have a nice, neat theme to pull them all together to make them into kind of a cohesive thing. The only thing that ties these bottles together are that they're whiskey. They're good whiskey. All of them are good whiskey. I'm fairly confident of that. And they're all recent purchases. So if that's the type of thing that you're interested in, by all means, sit here, hang out, listen to me. And if it's not, you can still sit here, hang out and chat to each other. Thanks to everybody who's participating live tonight. It's wonderful to see you all. It's wonderful to welcome you all in. And to those people that's coming around and picking up on the replay, I'm very, very grateful. Thank you so much. There's not much in the way of housekeeping. Suffice to say that it's wonderful. I can talk about everything again. The OSWAs are finished. The voting closed on the 20th of October. It ran on for a wee while into the Monday just to make sure everybody had tidied up their votes and managed to edit the votes that they'd perhaps already placed. But sometime around mid-morning or noon on the Monday, That meant that everybody had a chance to get their votes in. We closed the votes, and that was it. The OSWAs were fixed for 2024. So I'm going to try and get through tonight without letting any cats out of any bags in terms of what has won what. You'll just have to tune in to Ralphie and I on Saturday, just 2 days away, and we'll share with you what the winners are for 2024. I'm excited about that, but I'm more excited, let's say just as excited, about what you guys have decided are going to be the top 10s in all your own personal People's Choice picks. When we aggregate all of those together and we make it into a top 10 chart, we share it with you for each of the 9 categories. Should be fun. Ralph is going to be appearing here alongside me live in the studio, and I'm looking forward to it. Hope to welcome you there. The only other thing is to remind everyone about is the Independent Spirits Festival in March, 15th of March next year. There are tickets on sale now for that. This is a festival in Leith in Edinburgh at Leith Theatre, and it's going to be focusing fully on independent bottlers. Everything behind those doors are going to be focused fully on the enthusiast. It's going to be a fantastic event. I think they are already sold out in terms of exhibitors. I think the exhibitor space is either almost gone or close to being gone. They're trying to squeeze in a few more. The website needs updated. That's on my shoulders. I need to update the website with the latest exhibitors, because what I shared with you a couple of weeks ago and what is currently live on there now has been expanded since. Really excited. It's going to be amazing to welcome so many of you there in Leith, 15th of March next year. The tickets will sell out once. There's not a lot of tickets. I think there's 200 if you want to see the documentary that's shown, the Independent Spirits, A Water of Life film documentary that they're showing at the same time. It's a 4-part docu-series. You get early access to the festival to go and watch the viewing. That's one ticket, and then there's another ticket if you're just going for the festival and not the viewing. There's about 200 of each, I think, and they've already been on sale for a couple of weeks. So if you're planning to be around the east of Scotland in March next year and think you can make it, grab your tickets now. It'd be great to see you there. Okay, before we get the wheels on all of these new bottles that I've got and going to share with you tonight, and hopefully get some relaxed whiskey chat going, I'm going to do what we always do. Jump into the chat, jump into the lounge, and welcome some of you beautiful whiskey folk and dedicated barflies. How you all doing? I'll be looking for the orange as usual. So if you're trying to get my attention, just type Aquavite and it should highlight orange for me. Gordon Burniston has joined the Barflies. Thank you very much, Gordon. Thank you for stepping up and supporting me as a member. He's clicked on YouTube. This is specifically on YouTube. He's clicked the channel member thing to pledge $1.99 a month in whatever his currency will be. He's dollars, euros, or pounds, whatever it may be, and keeps everything that we do on the Aquavite channel completely ad-free. Thank you, Barflies. Thank you, Gordon. Whiskey Works Graham, my friend Graham, good to see you, buddy. Saying, catching the first vPub live in a while. It seems fitting as today would have been Big Al's birthday. Cheers, Roy and Barflies. My goodness, that's something to remember. That's amazing. We lost Big Al. We lost him. One of the YouTubers out there. A fantastic big guy. We've often recalled him. I can't have Wild Turkey 101 without thinking about the boy. Happy birthday, Al, wherever you are, fella. And thank you very much, Graham, for your generous dram, buddy. It's good to have you here whenever you can make it. Cheers. Alan Smith's here. He's saying, could you give Jeff's English Whiskey Awards a wee plug? I absolutely will, Alan. Not only will I do that, but I think he's putting together a wee PR so we can share all the details and things on Dramface 2. Inspired by the OSWAs, and we hoped that this would happen. Ralph and I hoped that, and the reason we kept the S in the OSWAs is that it's the Scotch whisky community. It's the Scotch whisky community's voice. It's the Scotch whisky community's perspective and opinion. It was not specifically for Scotch whiskies, but it was from the Scotch whisky community. But we hoped that maybe the bourbon community would step up and do a similar grassroots award system, or somebody that's really interested in Irish whiskey or something, or any category that could pull together in order to celebrate what their segment or category is doing. But wouldn't you know it, the first one that seems to have stepped up is English whiskey. Big fan of the what's happening in English whiskey. There's only a handful or so of distilleries that I'm familiar with right now, English whiskey distilleries, but the majority of them are really set up and pay attention whiskies that's coming out of there, despite their young ages. Some fantastic stuff coming out. You've heard me speaking regularly about Cotswolds, about Circumstance Distillery down in Bristol, about Filey Bay, probably more than anything, White Peak and the Wireworks products that's coming out there. And there's just so many more. I think there's 55 and counting English malt distilleries today. So Pete, with a collaboration from Vinit No Nonsense Whiskey, and I think that they're going to be involving other participants in there as well. What they're doing is they're slightly flipping it a little bit. They're focusing specifically on English whiskey, but inviting anybody from any kind of whiskey loving background to get in and get involved with it. So that's the English Whiskey Awards. You can find details over at Jeff's channel. That's Jeff Whiskey on YouTube. And like I say, if anybody's got a link or anything, Alan, if you've got a link you want to drop it in, just be happy for any of my moderators to let that link go in there. That would be amazing. I should have probably had it prepped and ready. But as soon as the OSWAs finished, they're going to pick up and do it. I think it's only 3 categories. We've got a much smaller, more focused thing. So it's going to be interesting to get behind and support them as well. Rico Donaire is saying a vPub is a vPub. I don't need a topic. I just enjoy it. He's saying, good to have you in, Rico. It's always brilliant to have you here, buddy. Celebrating being a barfly for 46 months. Thank you. Pedro is here from Brazil. So it's been 1.5 years. Cheers, barflies. Celebrating being a member of the barflies for 18 months. Talking of Brazil, Pedro, I don't know if you were in town recently, but your pal, Raphael, was in town. And he dropped this off at the Bon Accord for me. One of the nicest world whiskies I've had in recent times was the vintage 2005 18-year-old, potentially the oldest Latin America malt whiskey there's ever been. Very, very Scotch-alike. Gorgeous whiskey. Loved it. That was from Raphael as well. But he's dropped me off this autograph version, a PX sherry cask finish. What's really striking me here, despite it's obviously in Portuguese, but you can make out without too much difficulty the transparency that they've got going on here for this product. 48% ABV. It tells you that it's non-chill filtered, all the good stuff we want. But more than anything, it tells us that it's 6 years old, and it tells us how long the PX finish was. It went in a PX cask for 18 months from June 21 to December 22. Fantastic transparency, fantastic bottle of whiskey to have, something that we would absolutely find very, very difficult to get in the UK. As far as I'm aware, I've not seen any Union whiskey for sale in the UK yet. It might exist, but this is a fabulous 750ml bottle to have. Thank you. Thank you, Raphael, and thank you, Pedro, for your support, my friend. Cheers. Well, I see you in Glasgow soon. Jim Morse is celebrating being a member for 19 months. Thank you for your support, Jim. Jeff Whiskey is here. Rookie numbers, he's saying 12 months. Being a member of the Barflies, you've been a Barfly for longer than that. Don't use these things as a counter. Remember, your support, there's a million ways to support. Just being here and participating and being part of it is just as important as anything. I appreciate it all. But Jeff, if you've got a link that you want to drop in tonight, buddy, please do that, and hopefully the moderators can, and I can pin it up at the top for the English Whiskey Awards. Scott Matheson celebrating being a member for 12 months. Thank you, Scott. Thanks so much. He's saying here's to plenty more years, and he's gifted 5 memberships out there. So 5 lucky folk are going to get a wee Barfly membership, courtesy of Scott Matheson. Thank you very much for your generosity, my friend. But Ben Whiskey with Molly's 37 months in, just over the 3-year mark. Good for you, Ben. It's always amazing to see you in, buddy. Hope you're keeping well. Whiskey Lover Society, good to see you, Gert. Or Gerhard? Gerhard? I always make a mess of that, don't I, buddy? Part of the OSWAs as well, Whiskey Lover Society YouTube channel over there in Belgium. A wee dram. Thank you very much, my friend. Very generous of you. Shayla's here as well, celebrating being a member for 45 months. I'm excited to see everyone at Glasgow Whisky Festival. Cheers, Roy. So Shayla's finally making it over to Scotland. She's coming over for the festival weekend as well. Can't wait, Shayla. It's been long enough, hasn't it? I'm sure you'll have a great time. Tom Freni, good to see you, Tom. He's saying, looking forward to seeing everyone in Glasgow. Tom, we'll get to welcome you back in Glasgow again. Looking forward to it. So many So much celebrity going to be there, right? Fantastic. Can't wait. Alistair Gray saying, good evening, Aquavita and Barflies. Good to see you, buddy. And Lowlander is saying, thanks for asking my question a couple of weeks ago in the Serge Valentine vPub. Also, happy Diwali to those celebrating. That's right. Some of my kids' friends are away out celebrating that, and the other kids are away out celebrating Halloween and doing all sorts of crazy things tonight. The obvious thing for me to have done for a vPub tonight was a Halloween theme thing, and I just couldn't imagine anything worse. So hi. But thank you, buddy. Thank you so much. Nice to see you in, Lowlander. And a big thanks to Serge. I really enjoyed the session with Serge a couple of weeks ago. I have to say, I did have a small concern with a very small C. I felt like that wasn't Serge's comfort zone. You know, to be on a live stream, to just kind of be in that kind of format, to be in that place very late at night as well. I just felt like I was maybe kind of encroaching a wee bit, but I wanted him on the vPub, and he was up for it, so we went for it. I got the sense that he enjoyed it. I got the impression that he relaxed and enjoyed the session, and I think most of the people that tuned into that session with him got a lot out of it too. Lowlander, it was a pleasure for me to ask the community questions, and I'm sorry and apologise to the people who did put great questions forward that we just never got round to. Might not be the last time, you never know. Max is here from Austria. Good to see you, buddy. Good evening, buddy. It's lovely to be able to close the work week with a vPub. To you and the lovely Barflies. No work on a Friday. That would be amazing, Max. Welcome, my friend, and I hope you're well. Wonderful to see you. All the best to you and Christina and Max Jr. Road to Drama is saying, evening, Aquavita. Looking forward to Saturday into next week. No matter who wins, congrats for another edition of the only Scotch Whisky Award that counts, beside Jeff Whisky's English Awards. He's put in brackets, of course. Listen, if these things are, you know, ethically heart in the right place, no, it's just everything is about representing what the community has voted for, what they have spoken for, and giving them a space when their picks are not there, giving them a space through the People's Choice to talk about what they would prefer to have in there and see in there. Remember, it's a nominations program. It's not a top 10 chart, the awards itself. That's what the People's Choice is. But there's a nomination required. So it's going to be, hopefully, if it's interesting and worthwhile, it should vary from year to year. It's not there to pick the top 6 best. That's not what the OSWAs are there to do. They're there to pick the best from the nominations. And the nominations that get through should be fantastic, outstanding whiskies because of how hard it is to go through the process in order to be nominated in the end. It's not meant to be a top 6. That's what the People's Choice is for being a top 10. It's slowly but surely people are starting to understand it a wee bit. Rick Johnson's here. I hope you're keeping well, Rick. It was wonderful to have you in Glasgow recently. Good afternoon from San Francisco, Roy. Glad you look as relaxed as you do. Thank you very much, Rick. It was great to have you here. I hope you had a fantastic time. Julian Rickman is saying, oops, just jump, Julian. I'll get you back. I'll scroll back up. Hopefully I've caught you. Oh, I'm missing a lot of chat here. Yeah, Julian, I think I might have missed you. We'll scroll a bit further up. No wonder it jumped. There's so much chat. Over 300 of you, and I need to keep up. Julian, if you're in, buddy, hopefully I'll catch your comment a wee bit later because I'm scrolling up and I can't find your comment. So sorry, my friend. Greg in Paris is saying there's a new section of the World Whisky Awards for France. Results given during Whisky Live Paris, but not sure who organised it. Not the whisky community for sure, though. That's right. We don't know. It's probably an industry-driven thing or an independent agency, paid for finance type thing. We know how that goes. Heading home from work, says Justin Wan. Good to see you, buddy. Can't wait to be here live again. Fantastic to have you in. And Hellswood is here. All out of sweeties. Hazelburn 10 it is Aquavita. Slancher. Fantastic. So that's all out of the Halloween sweeties she's talking about. Hope you're enjoying that wee Hazelburn. She's saying, Serge is a star, says Greg's Whisky Guide. He used to do entertaining masterclasses, but not necessarily a live show. But I'm sure he enjoyed it, Roy. No worries. And it showed by the end of the show he was happy. Fantastic, Greg. Well, you would know You potentially know him, especially if you've been in these masterclasses, you'd know him better than most. I've only met Serge 2 or 3 times in my life, so that was a pleasure to have him on. Road to Drama is saying the People's Choice is as important as the nominations for me and what I might want to look out for next. That's right, and the People's Choice is just kind of like, you can literally, it's a wild card entry, you can put in anything you want, but inevitably what it's going to do through the kind of chart system is it's just going to list what the top 10 that were voted for. So I'm looking forward to sharing it all with you. Well, Mike Molasses saying, hello, Roy, doing a Halloween candy and whiskey pairing tonight. Good for you. That sounds perfect. Halloween candy and whiskey. Maybe that's what I should have done. Sweeties and whiskey. That sounds like great fun, Mike. Evening all, says Ian Bruce. Hope everyone is keeping well. And evening, Roy. I'm keeping very well, Ian. It's good to have you in. And Whiskey Weekend Dram Harrow's saying, can you do a shout out for the Dutch Barfly meeting group? We need some well-known members to add. So this is Harrow. Whiskey Weekend Dram is talking about Dutch Barflies. Where are you meeting? Whereabout in the Netherlands are you meeting, Harrow? And let us know a wee bit more about it. Is there a Facebook group? Is there something that you would like to link to? But if there's anybody in here tonight from the Netherlands, there are very often quite a few people here from the Netherlands and interested in getting together with like-minded folk, potentially barflies over there, and as part of the Dutch barfly group, give Harrow a wee shout. Fantastic. How are we doing for time? Right, okay. I've got something in the glass that we're going to get to. But like I say, the only unifying theme to my bottles tonight is the fact that they're all new. So let me run through what the categories are. This doesn't necessarily tell you what the bottles are going to be, but one or two of them, I think you'll be able to predict what I'm going to be sharing with you tonight. The first category I'm going to talk about is an Elusive bottle, one that's constantly slipped through my fingers, despite chasing it time and time again. I managed to get one very recently just by walking into my local retailer and seeing it on the shelf. Fantastic when that happens. The next one is the Not So Secret, one of those hidden malts. But this one is something that is hidden, but not really. And we'll talk about that. We'll talk about value, we'll talk about price, all of that, those kind of things like we like to do in the vPub. And I'm going to talk about some things that have been happening recently about pricing as well, and we'll maybe use that as the prompt for that discussion. Then we'll go on to talk about a Milestone malt, something that's out very, very recently. I'll give you a wee hint. It's a 10-year milestone. You might instantly know what that is. I've got a bottle here waiting to be uncorked tonight. Then we'll go on to talk about the tricky sequel, that follow-up release after the initial inaugural, especially when the inaugural release has been a banger that everybody seemed to love. They've then got to come along with a sequel. We've got one of those on the go tonight as well. Then we've got the hot topic. This is something that, it's not a global hot topic, but I sense that this is building now. This is a distillery releasing products at great prices that it seems to be everybody started chattering about it now. So if you're coming into Glasgow for the Glasgow Whisky Festival weekend, for example, and you don't get this whiskey where you're from, this might be something for you to look out for. And finally, if we've got time, we'll close out with a special treat that I picked up while I was away on my holidays last week. So that's how the night's going to shape up before we roll into the quiz at the end. So lots of chat to be had before then. Let's put this one off to the side. This is the Not So Secret dram that's in the glass right now. So put it off to the side. I don't need to pour one of those later. I'm going to uncork my Elusive dram in front of you tonight. You might know that I've been looking for this. I didn't make a secret of it. It was originally released through the ballot system at Thompson Brothers, but it was also available. It was distributed out there through retail and things like that, but it tended to get snapped up very, very quickly. Interestingly, this is a blended malt. This is something that has become much, much more acceptable in recent years. And I would have to say that, amongst others, but the Thompson Brothers have been very, very good at doing that, at promoting that. Not only do they need to promote a concept, but they need to promote a concept with really good examples of what it can do. This is quite a wee bit of a self-indulgent thing from the Thompson Brothers, and none of us mind that one bit. This is very much about them and their location. Dornoch Distillery. The current Dornoch Distillery is located in the region of Sutherland. And despite that being a pretty huge region in the Highlands, Sutherland, there aren't many distilleries there. There are only 3, Dornoch, Clynelish, and now Brora. So what we have here is the Sutherland blend. It's been really hard for me to get hold of this, but I know a lot of you out there will have tried this. Blended malt whiskey, and it uses a component from each of those 3 distilleries. Now, there must be Brora in here. They have to put Brora in here to put on the label that it's from a trio of Sutherland distilleries. How much Brora is going into it, we don't really know, but we don't really care, because does it matter if it's, 50 mil? Or do we matter if it's 5 litres? How much of a difference is it actually going to make at the end of the day? It's a wee bit like the Big Peat, putting Port Ellen in the Big Peat blended malt, right? It's just a kind of nice thing for it to be. The big thing about this, the thing that makes this so special, and to be honest, probably the thing that makes it a wee bit more expensive, I paid £75 for this at local retailer. Probably, I don't know if it's £1 or 2 cheaper elsewhere, but £75 is quite expensive for something with a 5-year age statement on it. But remember, this is the Thompson brothers. They go about their business in a very, very ethical, flavour forward, quality forward way. And we can take that 5-year age statement with a pinch of salt. The reason there's a 5-year age statement on there is because of the Dornoch Distillery liquid that's going to go into this. Dornoch produces about 10 or 12,000 litres per annum. It's nothing. It literally makes it, in all practical senses, the smallest Scotch malt distillery currently producing regularly. It's nothing. 12,000 litres per annum is nothing. So it's quite precious liquid. And when it gets put out there on the market, it gets snapped up. Despite the fact that it's £90, £100 or whatever it may be for the bottles of Dornoch malt. So they're putting a significant amount in this, but I would suggest that the majority, just thinking about it, actually sent out a wee message. I wonder if I never bothered to check to see if anybody had responded. It would be my guess that the majority of the liquid in this bottle is therefore Clynelish. That's a good place to be. My experience with the Dornoch malt has been wonderful as well. Very, very flavourful malt. And apparently, it blends very well with Clynelish. The nose immediately is a big blast of malt and cereal to me. Quite outdoorsy too, like a blast of fresh air, clean linen and fresh air. I often get that. And then really sweet, reduced cooked apples. Apple sauce. A little bit of cider vinegar. A little bit of white pepper. And a kind of mulchy, warm earthiness. Kind of looking for some of that Dornoch kind of bready, yeasty. Maybe a hint of it. But mostly it's a kind of much more malty, rich character that's coming across. But I want to talk to you about blended malts tonight. I wanted to just to pause for a second and consider. This is a tricky one to get a hold of. But blended malts have kind of suddenly appeared from all over the place. From something that was very, very difficult to get a hold of a few years ago, outside of the range of Compass Box, of course. Suddenly the choice of blended malts is like nothing we've ever seen. I want to know, there's an interesting dynamic, and I don't think I'm telling any tales out of school when I talk about one of the points that we hope we're going to be able to make at the weekend, is the change that we've seen in the OSWAs. There's 2 categories in the OSWAs that uses the blended word, right? Blended Scotch and blended malt. And we've seen the interaction there amp up and increase significantly over the course of 2023 and 2022. I would suggest that Scotch whisky drinkers, specifically Scotch malt whisky drinkers, are settling a little bit with that blended concept, with a blended idea, they seem to be a bit more comfortable and a bit more open-minded about enjoying a blend. But for me, a blend and a blended malt are actually much more different than a blended malt and a single malt. Because a single malt and a blended malt, it's just all malt whiskey. But a blended Scotch is a different drink altogether, in my mind, because you're using a significant proportion of grain whiskey in the mix, either most likely made from wheat in a different process, not batch made in a pot still, but continuously made through a column. That to me is a bigger step away from just taking malt whiskies, single malt whiskies, and blending them to make a blended malt. You're still in the malt sphere. That's what I'm drinking here. This is 100% malt whiskey in the glass here, despite having the word blended on the label. What is your take? What is your take on blends? Are you chill about it, or are you still, no, I'm a single malt fan? Clean, bright, a nice kind of grip texture to it, a little effervescence there. Still very outdoorsy, fresh, apple forward, very citric. Sweet clementine, a wee bit of sweet clementine in the citrus. Less lemony, less grapefruity, more kind of sweet citrus. The apples are sweet as well. Fruity, light, elegant. So much cereal on the nose, so much malt, so much gristy, kind of malty hay barn. Ben, Whiskey with Molly, is saying the latest Sutherland is a 0.0089% Brora, 1982 G&M. The rest is 5 different casks of Clynelish and a Dornoch at 138 PX, but 4%. So 5. So what's the 4% in it? Because it can't be that there's only 4% Dornoch in there. The rest is 5 different casks of Clynelish. So I wonder how you got that makeup. Did you go onto the website or something? Did you simply do something I should have done before we went live tonight, Ben? But that's good information. So the majority, Clynelish. Overland Drams, good to see you, Chuck. He said, I'm pretty pumped for this new rye blend from Leopold Brothers. So is she talking about different ryes there, Chuck? Chuck's in Colorado, so I know for a fact it's going to be pretty tough for Chuck to get hold of something like this, but good to have you in. Alistair Gray is saying, big fan of blends. I wonder if you would have said that 5 years ago. Ryan Sutherland is saying, moan the blends. Good for you, Ryan. Ryan's got his own blends, of course. He's making the Seven Sons blends, or he's part of the team, let's say, that's responsible for making the Seven Sons blends. It's currently coming out of 8 Doors Distillery while we wait on their whiskey coming along. Good to have you in, Ryan. Multi-Mission is saying, Wee Brown Electric Coup, that's all. So that's all you have right now. The Wee Brown Electric Coup was a blend of all this Campbelltown distilleries that came out for the Malts Festival in May this year. And it was a collaboration, let's see if I can get this right, between, so Wee Brown is Little Brown Dog, Electric was Watt Whiskey, of course, Watt, and Electric Coup, Sturk was David Sturk. So Sturk Brothers, Little Brown Dog and Watt Whiskey brought this together as a collaboration. The other good thing about doing projects like that is that rather than just having whatever a single cask gives you, a couple of 100 bottles at best, right, is that you've got the ability to do this kind of small batch thing and really sit down and work out what whiskies work well together to potentially take you to that place where you hope to get to a point where you're offering something that's greater than the sum of its parts, or certainly better than any individual component. So it's one of there is an argument that a well put together blended malt should arguably be often, in the majority of cases, better than the majority of single malts. I'm just putting it out there. I'm just saying, we love to experiment with all the different distilleries, with the provenance of the different distilleries, where they're from, the concept of where they're geographically located, as well as the different distillery character and the different way that they taste. We love this. Nobody's going to stop anyone chasing that individual kind of laser-focused experience. However, every distillery is capable of making every profile, it seems, these days, right? Things are changing quite quickly. So why not keep our minds open to what can be made by mixing things together? Ryan Sutherland is saying blends, blends. I sense that you're saying that, you're speaking for a lot of folk out there that is becoming a wee bit more relaxed and even a wee bit more enthused about blends. And Ben is saying, yes, the details are online. So the details for this makeup are online, and I just should have spent a bit of time looking at it before I came on live. Burkey73 is here. Good to see you. Good evening, Roy. Could I ask your opinion on Johnny Walker Blue? I'm very curious to try it. Or buy a couple of decent single malts. Cheers. Buy a couple of decent single malts. Burkey, I think you're in the west of Scotland, or you're in Scotland somewhere, I think. But inside or out of Scotland, go into a bar, pay the money for 1 dram of Johnny Walker Blue. What you will taste is objectively a good whiskey. It is objectively a good whiskey. It's 40% ABV, so I don't know what you're drinking at and what you're enjoying, but at 40%, for a lot of aficionados and enthusiasts, they can often feel a wee bit like it's a bit just light. There's just not enough there for them. That's certainly how I feel these days. But having said that, it wouldn't stop me putting Johnny Walker Blue on the shelf. The thing that stops me putting it on the shelf is the price. So what you get is a brand, and you get the reassurance that you're going to get a minimum quality of product with Johnny Walker Blue, all of those great things. But you have to pay a lot for not much payback, I would say. So try it first, and if you love it, you can go out and spend your 150, 200 quid. I don't even know how much it is for a Johnny Walker Blue. Or you can treat yourself to an absolute banger, or a couple of bangers of decent single malt. Mark Winter was saying, as long as it's an integrity blend, as far as I'm concerned, you can blend whatever you want. Variety is the spice of life. Good for you, Mark. Yeah, I suspect that we are of a similar mind. Blends, malts, blended malts, he's saying, Ian Bruce is saying, also allow for some whiskies to be tried, like the Brora, that you might find hard to get. Okay, so you trying to find, like, be able to say that you sipped some Brora in here. It was a wee bit like when we were speaking to Serge Valentine last week, and he talked about you could get your hand on some old Mackey's blends, or the old Logan blend or something like that, and say that you've sipped malt mill. I'm not sure that you would get much of a kind of Brora experience out of this, but you can say that you've sipped it, and certainly the style of the whiskey, albeit a different presentation completely, is certainly in keeping. Clynelish is a gorgeous malt. It's not gorgeous all of the time, everywhere. But when you get a good Clynelish, I suspect this is going to settle and turn into something that sparkles. It's a neck pour. This is my lane. This is my style of whiskey. If I'm just relaxing, if I'm just kind of wanting something to have in the glass, I mean, it's perfect drinking strength as well. What is it, 48.5 or something? 48 is far too tiny. 48.5, 46.5? 48.5% ABV. It's perfect sipping strength just to kind of sit and relax with it. More than anything, I absolutely adore the retro kind of homage style design, the label, right? And that cat there is very, very deliberate. Very deliberate. Meow, meow. It's fantastic. A bottle I'm pleased to have. Very fruity. Malty, fruity, clean, elegant. Nice amount of grip, nice amount of sipping strength. Fantastic. Chuck is saying, true, thanks, buddy. Loving that rye blend. And a grain of malt. Good this James from Sweden. He's saying, good evening, Aquaviti. Good to see you, buddy. Melinda is saying, I think the Sutherland blend is 25% Dornoch and 75% Klein Leash and a dash of Brora. That sounds a wee bit more like I would expect it to be. Just a dash of Brora. 25% Dornoch kind of makes more sense. Multi-Mission is saying, no, that's all the evidence we need to shout about blends and blended malts. And Major Nut, good to see Major Nut. He's saying, need a steampunker. Catch the rest on replay. Have a good uncorking. I will do, buddy. And if you're just picking this back up on the replay, welcome back again. I need a magnifying glass now. I've actually got a different pair of glasses now that I keep on my desk, specifically for kind of, because I've got, these are varifocals, so I can kind of see reading and I can see distance. But the intermediate is now I've got different glasses. Getting old is just really sucky, right? It doesn't come alone. So yeah, I could do Major Nut with having a Ralphie Steampunker magnifier on the desk as well. Doodle the Drama is saying, that cat-related tip you gave me, it made me feel like I got privied to insider information. Thank you, wink, wink. Are you talking to me, Arnie? Are you talking to me about cats? All right. So I'm pleased. I've got an Elusive bottle. I've managed to track it down, and I'm being a wee bit disingenuous because I did manage to pick up one of these before, because I went over to Limburg, and this is the exact same thing. It's a trio of Sutherland blends, but this is the Limburg bottling. But I picked this up amongst some very exalted company, let's say, and I'm going to wait till that company's back together before we crack this open and give it a wee try. But theoretically, this is distilled, blended, and bottled in Sutherland, the exact same. I don't know if there's an age statement on this one, right enough. So we're not sure what the ages are in this one, but apparently it's the exact same concept. This was an exclusive bottling for Limburg, but this one I've not opened yet. One of those saving it for a special moment type things. So I was grateful to be able to finally get a hold of this because it's been far too elusive. But we're going to move on to something that is anything but elusive. If you are in the UK and Europe right now, and when I say Europe, I'm speaking about the markets that can get their hands easily on the scotches that are being released generally into the market. But this isn't so much a single brand, but it's a brand that covers a series of releases. And it seems like there isn't a vPub in the last few weeks where there hasn't been an opportunity to talk about this series. I'm talking about Signatory Vintage and their recent small batch foray into the 100 proof segment. So they've got these 100 proof small batch bottles. Everything goes out at 57.1% ABV because that's 100 degrees proof, and everything tends to be in the range of about 40 to 50 pounds, usually about 45, 46 pounds. Fabulous value, because none of this is young whiskey, none of this is particularly contrived, or it's all just kind of, this is malt. So even when we've got a kind of secret product here, we don't know what this is. It just simply says Speyside on the label, 2011. This is their edition number 25, a 13-year-old from Speyside here. But if you look at it, you can see after the word Speyside, there's a little M in brackets. So of course that must mean it's from Mannockmore or Mortlach. Or, of course, it's neither of those. It's Milton Duff, isn't it? Right. So the suggestion here is that this is Macallan. And for anybody to be able to pick up a bottle of Macallan in any presentation at £45 in the modern era is just ridiculous to think about. But, of course, it's not Macallan branded. It's branded as a Signatory. They can't sell it as Macallan. They can't put Macallan on the label. So they have to do this little kind of nudge and a wink to put the M in brackets there. But I would also say that there is a problem here, and we have to just rely on the trust that we have in Signatory here, because any independent bottler could come along with a Speyside that they're not allowed to name or something, just a hidden malt, and just kind of start to suggest, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, that it's something that's desirable. You know, it's a wee bit. I hope that we don't end up in that place where, you know, because there's nothing illegal here. If that was a Milton Duff, a Manickmore, or a Mortlach, there's nothing illegal here at all. I don't see anyone from Signatory standing up and saying this is a Macallan. This is chatter in the background. But this is Macallan. £45. Now, I have to make a wee bit of an observation here. I love this series. I love that this exists. I love the value it brings. I've made an argument in the vPub just a few weeks ago saying, you know, given that this exists out there in the markets that it does exist, why is anyone buying anything else these days? Well, the answer to that is that this cannot be everything. The variety in this range, in this series, is already fantastic, but it doesn't cover all the bases. For the most part, all the 100 proof series that came out were very, very heavily sherry cask at first, and then they started to release some bourbon casks from the likes of, I've got a really quite tasty wee Ardmore there, and some others have come along that's not relied on sherry cask. That's nice to see, but they can't cover everything all of the time. So the reason that we're going elsewhere is, of course, for the thing that we love to chase, and that's variety. But if you've got a near cask strength, small batch product out there for £45, it almost doesn't matter what the distillery that it comes from is. You're going to be happy just to kind of pick these up and explore them and try them out. You know, that Milton Duff that comes out might be a cracker, that Craigellachie might be a cracker, the Linkwood, the Glentockers, whatever comes out is maybe going to be a really, really good one to your palate. However, my observation is that of all the 100 proof series that I've tried so far, every single one has been solid. I have never once sipped it and thought, oh dear, I've wasted my money here. But likewise, I have never once sipped it and said, wow, there is still to be a bottle that comes out that's just going to wow me. Now, I know what I'm saying there. I'm a spoilt brat, and what am I asking for, right? I don't just want 100 proof whiskey for 45 quid. I want it to knock me on my backside as well. It's not what I'm demanding. It's not what I'm asking for. I just want to caveat what this range does. It brings good, solid, anxiety-free, fantastic quality drinking whiskey at an affordable price. It may bring bottles of wow. It may bring something that really makes you stop and think. But I'm just saying, over the 6 or 8 bottles that I've purchased since it came out, which is less than a year, which tells a tale in itself how much I'm into this, there's still not been one that really kind of makes me go, ooh. This Macallan, for example, this Speyside, it's got everything that you would expect a sherried single malt Scotch whisky to have. There is nothing about this that would make me shout Macallan. I don't know what would make me shout Macallan because I'm simply not familiar enough with Macallan. But it's very, very good. It's very rich and deep. Plum jam, lovely spice, cooking spices, ginger. Just a good, solid, no sulfur. There's been some chatter about sulfur on some of these bottles, but for me, I'm not the most sensitive to sulfur. I do pick it up. I do enjoy a wee bit of sulfur. I don't mind when it brings a little savory lick to things. But there's not much in the way of sulfur. You would have to be super sensitive, I think, to pick anything up here. It's pretty clean. It drinks well, but there's a bit of spice to this. This is 13 years old, and there is a bit of heat. There is a bit of nip to the bottle. I think it would do well from having a wee splash of water in it. Let's try. But less to bring out the flavour or less to kind of open things up a wee bit, but actively trying to reduce the alcohol a little bit. There's just a wee bit of alcohol heat. It's not off-putting for me. I'd be quite happy to sit and sip it. But when you consider it's a 13-year-old malt whiskey, you would expect it to have a wee bit more decorum about it. there is a touch of sulphur, but it's not much. Yeah, I just think that there is just a wee bit of heat in this bottle. For me to pick that out is being petty. This is £46. By the way, £46 for a bad bottle of whiskey. It doesn't matter what the specs say on the label. There's £45 wasted, of course. I have not had any that I've felt like I've wasted my money on. Just a fantastic range. Very, very grateful to have it out there. So what about you? It's not just Macallan. You're never going to find an independently bottled Oban, or it's going to be very rare. You're not going to find an independently bottled Glenfarclas. It's going to be even rarer. But the casks, they do exist. They are out there. So do you need to know the distillery where it's from? Think of the Whiskey Exchange when they release whether the event is for Black Friday or whatever it is, when they release their kind of, we don't really know what's in it. I always think that, well, if we don't know what's in it and somebody tells you that it's X, what have you really got to go on? You know, you need to, can we all be close to somebody that we trust? I tend to go along the lines of, I don't really care. I don't really care. I try and get over it very, very quickly and just enjoy the whiskey. Harry's saying for a Macallan, a bit sulphur is fine. It's right. It's one of the things that I guess that it's known for, sherry cask whiskey, right? Just to finish the bottle of the number 25, that's this bottle, says Alistair Gray. For me, just needed a wee dash of water to open and up and enjoy better. Perfectly, Alistair, exactly what I've just done here. P. Ed is saying I've had some great Glenfarclas from SMWS. I think he's saying Glenfarclas, GF. Overland Rams is, I mean, SMWS can do that because of the code system. Overland Rams, Chuck is saying I have to know the provenance. It just makes it more interesting. I wonder if as time goes on, Chuck, if you would change your mind in the future. I'm not sure. But I understand, especially when you're doing that kind of cookie trail thing where you're trying to just navigate your way through all the different styles, all the different regions, all the different distilleries, that the provenance is so crucial, right? I get it. I do understand it. Do we add water to Daft Mill at 60.4% ABV equivite? Jimmy Legg, good to see you in, my friend. Good to just kind of, I've just picked you up now. I usually pick you up pretty early. 60.4% Daft Mill. I do, unless I can't be bothered, Jimmy. We talk about this in the Dramface podcast, which is coming up. I think it's out in the next week or two. Not sure. It's down to the editor. But we talk about that idea of, we all know that we should probably be adding a wee bit of water, especially these high-strength, cask-strength whiskies and things, as well as much lower-strength whiskies too, just to see how it affects things, how it opens them up, or how it dilutes them, or what other things it can do to help us access other flavours and experiences. But most of the time, let's be honest, most whiskey drinkers tend to be a wee bit lazy, like me. There's a lazy vPub after all, right? Where you kind of pour it and you go, oh, I bet you this could probably do with a wee bit of water. Which is fine if you're sitting here or sitting at a table or in a bar or something, you can just reach for a wee bit of water. But if you're sitting on the sofa and you're in your comfy dram chair with a book or a movie or whatever it may be, you're just going to sit there and you're just going to drink it at bottling strength, let's be honest. Ian Bruce is saying Single Cask Nation have done a bottle out soon to be released, which maybe is a Glenfarclas Black Boat Bridge. Oh, Single Cask Nation. They're owned by SMWS now. And Veruri Whiskey Shop, good to see you, buddy. He's saying the drinker in me doesn't care, but the geek in me needs to know. I just get it. Brian Stormont is saying these bottles at the moment are the saviours of single malt for me. It's astonishingly good. We have to talk about this. We have to talk about these things that's happening, right? Klitz is saying if it's a secret X malt, it certainly requires some trust in the bottler, such as Thompson Brothers, or trusted reviews or recommendations. But if it's good, it's good. Again, I get it. These are all things I understand and I agree with. Gordon Fraser is saying no water. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. But I understand where you're coming from, and you're absolutely You're welcome to have your position on it. Multi-Mission is saying, good whiskey is good whiskey no matter where it's from. Origins are like an age statement. Nice bit of info and sometimes vital, but by no means written in stone. I wonder if we're betraying how far along our whiskey journeys we are with these statements. Max Christensen is saying, spot on, sitting on the sofa with a dog. Nothing could get me up right now. Maybe an empty glass, Marcus, unless you've got somebody to shout at, right, to bring your whiskey to you. Jim, my pal from Northern Ireland's in Whiskey Novice, and glad to hear you're as lazy as me regarding Waterroy. I preach about it, but most times don't bother myself. You and I are the same. And Gordon is saying, well, maybe some water. Okay, fine. So let's talk about pricing for a minute, because I think you'll have fun out of this. And because of the tech issues I've had with the software here tonight, I'm not able to do the normal sharing that we would normally do. So I've just had to patch it together and work around it. So I'll try and do a bit of a screen share here to make this work, and hope that it does. I'm going to bring you up a list in a second of Diageo special releases. Yes, I'm a sucker. Yeah, I bought a... I was going on holiday recently, and I wanted to take something nice to take along with me. And I took along Talisker's new 8-year-old from the 2024 special releases. It was released, the news came out, I saw an 8-year-old Talisker, I got excited, then reminded myself about the Diageo arbitrary, crazy, throw a dart at a board price strategy that they seem to have, and I just kind of tempered my expectations. And sure enough, the press release came out. First, it was in dollars on Dramface. They added the UK prices to it later. £110 for 8-year-old Talisker. Sorry, I'm out. Too much. I know that it's Talisker. And I know that we shouldn't really look too much at the label, the 8-year age statement. There was a release in 2018 that was absolutely delicious. There's been other 8-year-old releases since that have been great as well. A 15-year-old in 2019 that was fantastic. But they've just got more and more pricey. Just crazy, and they just don't seem capable of working out where the right prices for things are in order to get that balance between something that's really kind of celebrated and enjoyed and something that's genuinely talked about and promoted, and something that would make us excited about the special releases every year, where nobody's excited about the special releases anymore. Certainly not anybody that I know. However, me being a sucker, I went out and I said, okay, let's look at this Talisker. I didn't get a chance to try it, but what I did find is a massive discount online immediately after it had been launched. It was not £110. It was £85 and change, £86, something of that order, from Royal Mile Whiskies. That prompted me to look at other prices that were out there. I ordered it from Royal Mile Whiskies. I got it delivered. While I was waiting on it arriving, I started to look at other prices out there for the Talisker. And there was places that had it even a nudge cheaper than that. I think Royal Mile Whiskies are the cheapest right now. And then I started to look at the other special releases, and here's what I discovered. You might have discovered this for yourself. Let's try and do a wee screen share here. And I hope that this works. Just about works, right? So what we've got here is the guts of the special releases from Diageo in 2024. We've got our Talisker up there at the top at £110. We've got a Mortlach non-age statement, Midnight Dusk at £290. Lagavulin 12-year-old this year, they're calling it Fireside Tales, whatever, £180. Hysterically, ridiculously overpriced by a factor of 2.5. Glenord Autumn Walk, £155. The Oban 10-year-old, £125. We never see Oban, but a 10-year-old, £125. Come on. Benrinnes, okay, that's a really good age statement on that Benrinnes. It's in the 20-odd. I can't quite remember what it is, but £455. Just having a laugh. We'll leave that too. A Rosail Origami Kite. This is a follow-up to last year's 12-year-old, £150. And the Kalila Ambrosial Feast, I believe that to be wine finished, and I also think it's unpeated Kalila, as the special releases often are. £115 again for an 11-year-old. These prices are just comedy, utter comedy. This is why nobody's excited about the special releases anymore, because it's just a big greed grab. However, let's look at this. Here are the prices. And sorry about the flash that's happening. It's just the way I've had to make the screen share work tonight. Here are the prices. You can buy the Talisker Tidal Churn online right now for £82. And the story just goes on all the way down. £290 for the Mortlach down to £235, £180 down to £140 for the 12-year-old Lagavulin, still too expensive. Glenord Autumn Watt £155 down to £127. The Oban there's not much off the Oban, only a fiver off the Oban at £120. Huge chunk of change. Look at that, £328. I can't even fathom the maths. That's 72.50 is 112, £117 at quick math. Can that be right? No, I think I made a mess of that. Maths isn't my strong point, but we're getting 127, sorry, pounds off that Ben Rinnes. Still expensive, but what about that? In fact, I've gone ahead and I've listed it. £20 off the Rosile and £17 available now. What's crazy about this? Today, they're just out the door. They're just released. This is the retailers. This is the market. Now, they must have negotiated this up front with Diageo. No, we're not taking it at these prices. Fine, we'll quote your RRP, but we're not selling it at RRP. There must be some blowback on this, because it's not one retailer standing up and making a protest. This is widely available in lots of different outlets at these significantly reduced prices. I have to say, most of these reductions, most of these prices quoted here are from Royal Mile Whiskies. Then I get a message from a barfly. From a fella by the name of Frank Hayward, I think his name was. Frank, I hope I've got your name right. I've got your email up here. Yeah, Frank reached out to me, and Frank reached out to show me this. He sent me a link to his local retailer where he is in Australia. This is Lagavulin 12 for $119.99. Now that's Australian dollars. So for quick maths, it's about just north of £60. 60 quid for Lagavulin 12. Now you can see by the design here that this is a previous release. This is actually the 2022 special release. But nevertheless, there's a retailer out there getting hurt right now, because I guarantee you, or it makes sense to me, that this is stock that they've been sitting on for quite a while. You only have to go and look at Diageo's own website, malts.com. And when you do that, what you'll discover is that you can buy special releases from years in the past. Not for everything, not all of them, but you can buy years worth of the stuff. It is somehow they don't seem to care, or the strategy is something that it's not about what we're saying in this market, and they've got other things going on to do it. It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. It's very, very much about now, about shareholders, about how much money they can make right now, and the fact that these things are languishing on shelves and retailers are potentially being hurt significantly later. By the way, that's a great tip from Frank. If you're in Australia and you know Nick's Wine Merchants or whatever that retailer was, you can pick up. I've got that 2022 release. It's a fantastic bottle of whiskey for 119 Australian dollars. Somewhere in the order of £60. That's fantastic. But the prices that they're asking for that product now, we are after variety. We are after more variety than Signatory Vintage can bring us in their 100 proof series. But we're not that into variety. We're not that into our Lagavulin. We are not that loyal. You taste, for example, that Ardmore from the 100 proof series from Signatory Vintage, and you sip it alongside the Lagavulin. maybe you'll come down on the fence to say, the Lagavulin a bit better. But is it £180 versus £45 better? I think there's a lot of us that would rock up and pay £80 for that Lagavulin and just celebrate it and look forward to it and be excited about it every year. When it got over £100, I became queasy. When it's at £180, it's just really difficult. It's really difficult to talk about without getting quite upset. Hoyt is saying Diageo's probably trying to cash in on the holiday market and improve fourth quality earnings. I would suggest if they're trying to do that, it's not what they're doing through selling onto the customer. It's what they're getting out there, just getting through the door. So they're brokering a lot of these bulk deals, if that's the case. They're giving people these discounts to take it up front. That pricing is like the DFS sofa sale Aquavite was £1,999, now just £300. It's just as it's released though. And Inverurie Whisky Shop is saying they're pushing the theory that something is only desirable because it's limited. Clearly, a lot of those releases aren't that limited, and it shows in availability. The special releases, that for the majority of the time, are not limited. We've got Rose Isle, Diageo's biggest malt distillery. It's always been their biggest malt distillery. That's not in short supply. Bruce Bernard is saying it's most likely a stock photo that's not been updated. On that site, it could be, Bruce. There could be truth in that, but I would suggest that I think it's the 2022 release that's up there. I don't know what the description says. I thought I'd bring it to your attention. And we finally done the Lagavulin 8 is much better value in my opinion. Lovely wee bottle of whiskey, Lagavulin 8. Hard to criticise it really. We want more transparency on the label. Maybe 48% is nice, but I think they're still chill filtering it, unfortunately. Lolander is saying, do you think we're seeing the effect of perhaps a lot of people who got into whiskey in 2020 having no more space in the shelf for whiskey? Angry wife to buy more whiskey? Lolander, that's absolutely. And it's not about angry wife. It's not about space. It's about apathy and about the realisation that they've got plenty of whiskey to be getting on with. And while the prices continue to march in that direction, we just don't. So for the last year, people have just stopped buying. I still love buying bottles of whiskey. I still enjoy picking up new things. Exactly the theme of the vPub tonight. It's part of the enjoyment of this hobby. It's why I over-accumulate so many whiskies, and I know I'm not alone in that. But it gets to the point where you just say no. And you don't say no because you don't want the excitement and you don't want to buy it and you starve yourself. You don't, because there's so much choice. So you can either choose to just step out for a while and enjoy the whiskey you've already got in hand, which is so many people right now, or you can choose to continue the exploration, but you're not going to continue to support these brands that have started to take a pound of flesh. Alan Smith is saying Rose Isle now going for £55 at auction for a 70cl bottle he put in brackets, because Alan's aware that I was one of the people that get caught out buying a 20cl for the price of a 70cl at auction. Whiskey Mind Trails Tom is saying my calculations have I'll have 2 cases to bring to the nursing home with me. So he's extrapolating when he's going to need that nursing home visit, right? He's predicting it. Falsgraf, good to see you, Klaus. How are you? He's saying also for newcomers, it's just too expensive. Diageo certainly have very little entry prices. That's right. The Rose Isle, I was hopeful that could have been the entry level one. But I think between the Rose Isle, the Oban, not the Oban, the Talisker, the Rose Isle, and one other is crept, but with the discounts, has come under the £100 point. So some people might decide to step forward based on that. Tom Elmer is saying, I think I've only bought 3 bottles of whiskey this year. 2 were your Ardnamurchan. I think you've meant to say Ardnamurchan there. Absolutely, Tom. I hope you're enjoying them, buddy. Feel the pressure now. Mel is saying, my local whiskey shop does not have the special editions from 2024. He's still got the editions from last year and can't get rid of them. This is the story. It's too expensive. Doodle the Drama is saying, my source of reason is Max Kreitner. Here's my whiskey elder, and I'm needing direction. I know who to ask. He's a good elder to have, Arnie. He really is. Graham Mackay is saying, sadly, you can't be offering entry-level pricing and special releases in the same sentence. Listen, there's truth in that, But we're not looking for entry-level pricing here. We're looking for fair pricing. We don't want cheap. We want value. There is no... You won't get an argument from me if I compared that Ardmore from the 100 proof Ardmore, sorry, I should have had it here, from Signatory Vintage, for example, and put it up against Lagavulin 12. As said, if you put them in a glass together, I'm pretty confident you would probably fall on the side of Lagavulin 12. But £45 for one, it's a similar age to the £180 for the other. Ardmore's a bigger distillery. There's probably more availability. There's certainly more free market availability than Lagavulin. All of these things. But 45 versus £180 is not justifiable. And the market is reacting and saying no. It's crazy. It's just... But I hear you. Special releases. Doesn't say limited edition. It says special releases. They used to be something that we genuinely... I remember getting so excited about them every year and hoping that there was just maybe one or two I could afford. In Sweden, says Arnie, Talisker 18. Arnie Tiger, good to see you. He's saying Talisker 18 will be sold for £108. It will probably sell out quickly. Yeah, because everywhere else it's 200 quid plus. Whiskey Slayer is saying, then when you look online, you can see a retailer selling some bottles, for an example, £499, and then another for £175 for the same bottles. Absolutely blows my mind. Who buys the £499 bottles? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that works. And I would suggest that the only way that they can actually sell it is if they end up being the only retailer with any in stock and somebody's pretty desperate. Road to Dram, good to see Alberto is saying, even at £100, there is so much more stuff I would rather buy in that price range. Anyway, I've done my wee rant. I'm sorry to drag it into the weeds again. I'm sorry to get on the price, but I just wanted to share that with you. It's interesting times. There is value being brought to us now. And even the stuff that's expensive is being forcibly attenuated because the market is pushing back. I think it's really, really happening now. Let's move on then. Let's move on to a bit of a Milestone malt. I'm going to keep a wee bit of my Signatory Macallan, my Mortlach, my Manickmore, my Milton Duff. And I'm going to put it to the side and I'm going to get a Milestone bottle opened. I've tried this. I was up on holiday in the West Coast last week and I dropped by this distillery and I managed to get a wee dram. Now, I don't know what the wee dram was from. It wouldn't have been from the bottled batch, I don't think. I don't know, but they said that it was the 10-year-old. I got to have a wee sip of it and I very much enjoyed it. But of course, I'm speaking about just out this week, Ardnamurchan's 10-year-old. Now, I went into Good Spirits Company yesterday to pick it up because I heard that there was some of it in Glasgow, but they didn't have any in yet. I don't know if they got some in today. But I went across to the Bon Accord and they had some in the Bon Accord, and I was very grateful to be able to pick some up at Glasgow's world famous Bon Accord. Quite fortunate indeed. Meant I didn't need to have a tour back in and... Oh, a bit of a muted pop there. Let's try that again. That's a bit better. So, this is something I'm excited about. But I'm also a wee bit pragmatic as well. I'm excited about this because Ardnamurchan has reached 10 years. And that's incredible because it seems maybe just like last year when they released their inaugural, you know, but it wasn't. It was way back in the dark days of 2020. So, but still, that's what, 4 years ago now, 4 years ago. But I'm holding in my hands now malt produced at Ardnamurchan Distillery back in 2014. It can't be much of that, but they've managed to put together a decent outturn here. 15,000 bottles. For those of you that are excited to get a hold of this, I hope you managed to get a hold of it. They've put it out there at 50% ABV, a nice, strong strength. They've told us about the casks here. The writing on this is absolutely tiny. Fortunately, it's Ardnamurchan, so they've got the QR code on the back, so we could do. I bet you're able to read that better than I am. See that gold writing down there? I just can't pick it up. My sight is failing. But this is a decent outturn of 15,000 bottles. We should be able to get our hands on it, I hope. Having said that, I think it will be in demand because it is a limited release. This is not a new age statement from Ardnamurchan. They're not going to have a constant core release 10-year-old on the cards. This is just to say, look, we've reached 10 years. Let's get a bottle out there. Let's celebrate it. And that's what they've done. I hope they don't come to regret selling lots of their 2014 stock. It's nice to have it. It's nice to have it. They're actually calling it their 10th anniversary edition. Oh, okay, wow. Right on the back of that sherry rich Macallan, we've got some really quite sparkly, bright. If the opening dram tonight, the Sutherland, was outdoors, this is really outdoors. This is all the things that we like to talk about Ardnamurchan, that kind of mineralic note, the rock thing, the pebble thing, seashells. But a big blast of slightly tart, slightly sour fruit. Bit bready. This is unpeated spirit. A little acidic. Nice sharp note, almost like a wine vinegar. I've tried a sample of this on holiday. I got a wee sample of it. The sample, I didn't enjoy the sample as much as I've just enjoyed that first sip. That's much, much better than I remember it being from the sample and expected it to be. 50% is helping this right now. We also got to remember that in 2014, there's a chance that they were still kind of trying to get in their groove. This is not me speaking from experience or from anybody at the distillery or from Ardnamurchan. This is me just thinking about things. That you imagine that they've got everything nailed in now for exactly what they want to make, whether they're doing peated campaign or unpeated. They know what they're looking for at every stage of the way. But back then, it might have been a wee bit more kind of trying to dial it in. But this is just fantastic whiskey. This is a bit more expensive. If you go out and buy an Ardnamurchan an Ardnamurchan core range, the AD, you can pick it up from 45 to 54 pounds, something of that order, 50 quid area. It's 65 pounds to buy this. So for the 10-year age statement, you're having to pay a wee bit more. You're getting a wee bit more ABV, but we've also got to recognise that this is a limited edition. That 15,000 bottles is finite. And the stock from 2014 is also finite. So apply a wee bit of pragmatism here. If I was given this and told, oh, it's just so dry and acidic, just a big, sharp, drying finish right at the end. If I was poured this and handed and told us, and didn't ask what it was, didn't ask the bottle specs or anything like that, and just simply told the price, this is 65 pounds, I'd be very comfortable with that. This is very pleasing. I suspect a lot of people are going to pick up these bottles and not open them, not enjoy them. Ardnamurchan haven't gone about this thinking in that way, like some producers are liable to, I believe. I think Ardnamurchan have gone out there and put together the best product they could with the stock that they have from 2014. I think this is a remarkable wee achievement. You know the drill here, it's a vPub. I find it hard to be ambivalent about Ardnamurchan. I do. It's unique. It's absolutely unique whiskey. It's as unique as Daft Mill. It's as unique as Springbank. It's as unique as so many others. Very, very distinctive spirit style. That lovely kind of rugged, almost outdoorsy, coastal, mineralic character, whether it's unpeated or peated. 50% ABV, there's nothing in me that wants to reach for water. I'm going to put a wee splash of water in it just because, you know, just because it upsets Gordon Fraser. A few wee dreeps. Ardnamurchan. So wee creaminess in there too. Water helps. I think it attenuates the vibrance a wee bit, takes a wee bit of the edges off, brings a wee bit of a creamy note, softens the fruit. Less kind of citrusy, more kind of softer fruit. Wow. I'm really quite pleased. 65 quid. I'm really quite pleased that I've opened mine. I'm really quite pleased that this is open now and I can share this with other folk. I hope that you're fortunate enough, for those of you that do love Ardnamurchan, for those of you that do want to celebrate the fact that they're hitting a 10-year milestone and they're sharing it with us, I hope you do manage to get your hands on it. For them to put out something that's 15,000 bottles, they have done a much more exclusive release. They did the Fringe Festival through Adelphi. Quite amazing because that liquid had only just turned 10 years old. So that's the supposed advantage of having being an independent bottler and a distillery. But they managed to get that bottled up and ready for the Fringe. It went down very, very well. They've got a sherry cask that they're doing in collaboration with Marlowe, the watch company, and they're doing a watch box together with a very, very exclusive bottle. So they're doing these kind of real milestone landmark things. But then they'd go and they do just a 15,000 bottle outturn, despite the fact that they can't have a lot of stock from 2014. This is the right way to do things. It's the fair, it's the honest, it's the kind of way to just kind of have them continue to enjoy the fact that people are just loving what they're doing. It's not just about the machinery and the place, the location, and the barley and the process and the malt and the bottles and the aesthetic. It's not. There's a personality. There's a human face, multiple human faces behind Ardnamurchan. All it needs on top of all of that is just to be good whiskey. And it's really good whiskey. It's just magic that we can witness this happening year by year by year. And now they've hit a decade. Yeah, well done. Cheers to you all. Amazing. Very, very pleased. What a milestone to hit. What do you think? Anybody managed to pick up their Ardnamurchan? Jimmy Legg is saying there was a chance you wouldn't open it. I think not. I know I do have some sealed bottles, Jimmy Legg. There are some things on the shelf that are waiting for a special moment. I showed you one earlier, the Limburg bottling. Doodle Dram is saying, I'll catch you up. He's talking to Connell McKenzie. It looks like Connell might be in tonight. He's talking about Ardnamurchan right now. Ever tried it? It's lovely. Is Connell in? Sometimes he drops in from time to time. Be good to see him in tonight. Jesse Artanzalo, good to see you, Jesse. Good evening, Aquavitian Barflies. Just got home from work. Should I open my old particular Loch Lomond 26-year-old single grain? Jesse, the two fantastic things that you have to celebrate tonight is leaving work, getting home from work, and it's Thursday. Surely that's as good enough a thing to celebrate. I don't want to bully anybody into opening special bottles, Jesse, but if it was me and if I was in the mood and I even had that idea, it'd be open, as Jimmy Legg quite rightly points out. I struggle to keep it sealed. Gordon Fraser is saying, you'll never see me talk about Ardnamurchan, especially not with water in it. And Ben Whiskey with Molly saying, order today, looking forward to it arrive, and got it with a Thompson Brothers Teeth Mill. Oh yeah, River Teeth. And obviously Deanston being a mill originally, Teeth Mill, Deanston. Scott McIntyre is saying, I opened my Ardnamurchan Adelphi 10-year-old last month. Absolutely love it. Fantastic, Scott. I suspect there's a lot of people out there that perhaps don't open theirs. I got a bottle because I went to the Fringe Festival, but mine is sealed for a very specific reason. Conor McKenzie he's saying, hello, good to see you, big guy. How are you keeping? Nice to have you in. I'm glad that I didn't know what you were in when I started to talk about your whiskey. It made me much more comfortable just to talk about it as it was. But good job, fella. Good job to everybody there. Greg's Whiskey Guide is saying, not yet, Roy, but picked up a bottle of the Paul Lanois release 2024 from upcoming birthday. Now, there's an elusive bottle for me. Look, I haven't really kind of skint my elbows trying to get a hold of it, right? But I haven't been able to pick up a Paul Lanois Ardnamurchan yet. Highland Hamish is saying, enjoyed a pour of the Ardna 10 last week at the Loch Whisky Festival. Fantastic, Highland Hamish. Good to hear. I wonder if you enjoyed it, though. David Owen is saying, maybe the Ardnamurchan 10 will reach Germany. I have no doubt that it will, and I hope it does for your sake, David, but 15,000 is a global release, so hopefully it'll get out there. And Sandy McDonald, Sandy, good to see you, fella. I picked up mine today from the Highland Whisky Shop in Inverness and I'm enjoying it as we speak. Cheers to you, and I'm glad that you're enjoying it. Just a unique whiskey. Okay, where are we next? We're getting through things okay. An hour and 26, maybe not. Let's speed up a wee bit. Let's move on to the tricky sequel, right? So obviously we're talking about that difficult second album, you know, that really the successful movie that's then followed up by a really crappy cash-in type sequel. Whiskey has a similar dynamic, doesn't it? They have a fantastic inaugural, those that are fortunate enough to have been able to pull out a good inaugural. I've got a wee chipped Glencairn here. Put that one off to the side. And they have to follow up. So we had an inaugural from this Islay Distillery earlier in the year, and I loved it. I genuinely loved it. Loved sharing it. I loved pouring it blind for people and them trying to guess what it was. I love pouring it for people when they knew what it was and still seeing the same reaction, still seeing their eyes pop. It was a really, really good 5-year-old inaugural whiskey from Ardnahoe. Really, I've not heard anyone complain about it. This is their core range, what's going to be their core range. I do have a wee gripe about it right from the off, and it's about price, but you know, let's hold off a wee bit. It's 50% ABV as well, same as the Ardnamurchan. A lot of vibes are similar to Ardnamurchan, actually. They're kind of trying to release lots of the product so that lots of people can get tasting it. The transparency is fantastic. It says right on the front label, no artificial colouring, no chill filtration. As I say, 50% ABV. The only step down that we've got here is that there's no age statement on this one, but this is their Infinite Loch, which I believe is going to be, for the short term at least, their core range. Scott Lang is the signature on this, I noticed. Now, that's interesting because the inaugural was Stuart Lang. Scott Lang is one of the sons. Stuart is the dad, so I guess that the next bottle will be the Andrew Lang. I don't know. But yeah, I've just noticed that there's Scott Lang's signature on there. Anyway, I picked this up on the way back from holiday. I stopped into Tyndrum Whiskey, Green Valley, for a wee look about, and it was sitting on the shelf, and I thought, great. And I picked it up, and I opened it when I got home that night, but my goodness, I was awful tired, and I don't have much of a recollection of it. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but you can see that there's just a single dram out the bottle. So it's not quite an uncorking. We'll have a wee go. Now, I was quite surprised how heavily peated the inaugural was. They were going for a classic Islay, but the peat, I guess at 5 years old still, the peat was really, really quite vocal. It was at the point where you could maybe confuse it with one of the Kildalton trio, right? Lots of peat in that inaugural. Loved it. Really enjoyed it, as I've already said. This is really, really super peaty as well. Plenty peat. Not medicinal, not rock pools, not TCP, not all of that stuff. There's a warmth to the peat. it's easy for me to, I tend to reach for earthy when I talk about earthy peat, but I think tonight, this is just a kind of rich smoke. It's almost like you are or you walk into a house that is heated by a log fire or a log burner, where you've just got that kind of smoky air. There's a coziness to it, a warmth to it, which is really quite different from the outdoorsy type thing that I've been talking about with the Sutherland and the Ardnamurchan. But on the nose, I'm sensing immediately that this isn't as rich as the inaugural. Less sherry cask, which is not a bad thing. The samples that I tasted of the bourbon cask Ardnamurchan, Ardnahoe, apologies, were absolutely splendid. Fruit on here is quite quiet, but it's there. Orchard fruit, sure. A wee bit citric. Sweet citrus as well. Trying to search beyond the peat. I know I suffer from peat blindness, but you can't nose this and not pick up peat. It's kind of like a nuttiness or something. Yeah, so there's a kind of malty character, a maltiness, a cereal, a grain thing, but it's kind of almost like a hazelnutty type note. Cheers. Oh. Okay, so this is quite... I've not been drinking a lot of whiskey this week. Hardly any whiskey this week. I feel like I may be benefiting from that because I'm... Okay. There's quite a acidic, slightly sour, sharp side to this. This does not taste as it noses. This was nosing quite sweet, cozy and warming, but this was nosing quite sweet. And then on the palate, it's also quite drying. It's disappeared quite quickly. On the palate, it's almost like floral and acidic, slightly sharp. It's very reminiscent of Kalila, which is no bad thing. This is very, very different from that inaugural. I don't want to say it's that's not from a perspective of quality. It's from the flavor profile is very different. There's a dry, sour, acidic edge to this that I didn't expect. Suspect it's moreish. It's going to be the type of thing that you go back to. There is a young element to this. There's a spiritiness to this that you didn't pick up in the inaugural. Not as easy and not as easily as you do in this one. There's a wee bit of a kind of new make edge to it. Melon, banana, but malt, cereal, gristiness. It's quite drying as well. I think what you have to do with the tricky sequel or the follow-up album, right, is that you can't try and just make more of the same again. Not all the time. I suspect that they went all out to do the very, very best they can. I mean, their inaugural was 70,000 bottles, if I remember correctly. It was a huge release. Really, really cool. I don't know how big this release is, but I imagine that this will come out in batches now and be significant releases each time. My gripe with this is the price. I think the RRP on this is 65. I'm not sure, but I paid 57. So I could be wrong on the RRP. So if you're paying mid-50s, fine. You're doing okay. That's not too high. But if it gets into the 60s, it's a bit too expensive, I think. I think this is a good whiskey. I think there's a dryness and acidity here. I think it's a step change from the inaugural. It's going to be interesting to sit down and explore this. What I think I'm missing is, and of course I was going to be missing it, was that explosion of that tropicality, that lovely sweet fruit that I had from the bourbon casks. And I guess with no age statement on it, I think we can assume that it's probably going to be younger than 5 years, which is fine. We're pretty used to that now with these new distilleries. The flavour and the balance and the behaviour of this whiskey, given its young age, is absolutely fantastic. Let's make no mistake. Let's see what it says in the back. Sea spray, Isle of Peat, and dark chocolate. Dark chocolate, not so much. On the nose, menthol. Yes, I'll give you that. Fresh fruits. Bonfire notes on the palate lead into a smoky, zesty finish. Okay, we want more details. No. So we might be able to look it up online. I've been caught out tonight by not checking anything online first, but not much detail of the cask makeup on this one. There wasn't much on the original one either, but we could taste the sherry in it. A stone's throw from our distillery lies Loch Ardnahoe, Isla's so-called infinite loch, because in truth, no one knows the extent of its hidden depths. Can we just doff the cap to the aesthetics of this bottle here? This is a very, very striking bottle of whiskey. It's a wee bit like the SMWS, the new SMWS, the tapered bottle from the shoulders. But I just think it's got real presence. It looks like a classy bottle of whiskey. I am not in any way upset paying £57 for this. And I'm going to suggest that this whiskey is going to become better and better through time in this bottle. I just feel like that's the case with it. But I also suspect that it's going to get better and better with each release. I'll stand by my original assessment of Ardnahoe. I think that, and I include Ardnamurchan, I include Daffmill, I think that the best inaugural that there has been from any of the new 21st century distilleries is Ardnahoe. I think it was an absolute masterclass. Fantastic whiskey. Greg's Whiskey Guide is saying, I wonder how this Ardnahoe competes with the core range Torrevieck Altglian, not the cast strength Roy. This, I think my gut suggests this is a bit more well-mannered. Torrevieck is still quite raw and quite vocal. This is a wee bit more attenuated. Whether you're talking about the cast strength or the 46% releases from Torrevieck. A Macallan shape, not quite so much. Macallan's got that. Macallan's quite oval, but it does kind of, it's got the kind of broad shoulders. It's got that tapered design as well, Jimmy. You're right, but no, I think that this has got a wee bit more solidity about it, a bit more. I don't know. Christopher Meyer is saying, good to see you, Christoph Meyer, apologies, is saying, thanks for the tip on the Signatory 100 Proof series. Just saw the Ben Nevis 5-year-old, ordered it right away. You haven't come across this yet. And the Ben Nevis have been very, very popular despite their young age. I think the 5-year-old, I might be making a mistake here, but I think it's peated as well. I'm not sure. The Ginger Genius is here. Good to see you. So please don't tell me you're disappointed. I collect mine tomorrow. Not disappointed at all. And I suspect a lot of people might be picking this up, thinking about the inaugural and tasting the lane change here, which is why they needed to put more details on the label. to explain the lane change and the different cask makeup. I mean, you can see if, I don't know where my Ardnahoe is. Is it within reach? But there's not much of it left. I think I would be embarrassed to show you how much I've got through the inaugural bottle, but it's quite a bit darker than this bottle too, which is fabulous. Let's keep it all natural colour and keep us appreciating those changes. I suspect that you're going to enjoy it. Don't worry about it. I think you'll love it. Come back and let us know how you got on with it. An Inverary Whisky Shop is saying, I think 50 to 50 bourbon sherry cask makeup. I think the bottle is beautiful. And that logo is very cool. Reminds me of a certain shop. Oh, the Inverary Whisky Shop. Oh, does it look a wee bit like your logo? Does it? With a kind of wee pagoda arrangement going on there as well. So have they succeeded in the tricky sequel? I think it's exactly as what tends to happen when you have such a banging inaugural, when you have such a good inaugural, the sequel is always going to struggle. I would suggest that I hope that what this is a wee bit like the Star Wars trilogy, right? Where when The Empire Strikes came out at first, everybody wasn't sure. I'm old enough to remember. But now, for me, Empire Strikes Back is probably at a push my favourite because I've had time with it over the years. This could end up being something like that, but it's very different. Where the inaugural was a one and done type thing, a big outturn at 70,000. This is now them stepping into the core range territory, where they're going to attempt multiple batches of the same under this Infinite Loch name. I think that's what they're attempting here. So it's going to be interesting to see how it develops, because there's no kind of batch designator on this that I can see, which is what Ardnamurchan did so well. I think they need to continue doing that. There is an etched bottle code on the back, but it needs to be something a little bit more of a visual cue, so that we know what batch we're picking up. It doesn't need to be what leads on the label, but it needs to be something that people can look at and say, oh, okay, this is batch X. Just that way we can understand that we're dealing with malt whiskey, and we embrace the fact that it changes from batch to batch. I don't think it's difficult to do, but I only drink the stuff, I don't make the stuff, right? Anyway, we've got two more, but we don't need to go for the special treat at the end, right? We can talk about the hot topic. We can talk about what people are talking about right now. Now, I'm speaking about a very kind of parochial little UK sense, and I do mean the UK. We're not just in Scotland here. We're speaking about the UK. This whiskey has made it outside of the UK. It does export. It does make it into other markets, but I suspect that not in any great volume and not with any great reputation behind it. But that's changing. It's changing fast. What do you think I'm going to talk about now? What is a whiskey that has suddenly gone from being, oh yeah, to, oh wow, in the space of 18 months? I think it's got to do with maturity now. This is a new distillery. I think it's got to do with attitude. I think it's got to do with chasing the perfect recipe, right? So not just where they are and what they make and how they make it and how they present it and how pretty the bottle is, the aesthetics and all, the personality behind it too, but also being able to now back that up with striking malt whiskey. Graham Mackay is suggesting Glasgow. Whiskey with Molly Ben is saying Glasgow 1770. Alan McLaughlin is saying Loch or Glasgow 1770. Absolutely. Absolutely. I picked up this to take on holiday with me. I had it well enjoyed before I even left on holiday. This is their small batch series. Sorry, I should tell you what I'm holding up here. This is the Isla cask finish. There's a bit of a weird whiskey here, and I need to talk about it for a second. But I went into Good Spirits Company this week based on how much I've been enjoying this, and I picked up their Madeira cask. Both of these are cask strength whiskies. Small batch series from from Glasgow Distillery are not always single cask. Often, sometimes they're small batch. So it's a small batch series, and they do a couple of releases a year, usually 2 or 3 bottles, I believe, 3, I think. But this year they brought out a Marsala, which I don't have. They had the Madeira that I've just picked up based on how much I'm enjoying this. The Madeira is also peated, I believe. Yep, this is a peated 6-year-old. That's good. 16th of March 2018 it was filled. We already know this is a 6-year-old, 1st of May 2018. This I have just, you can see how much the level betrays, you know, yeah, a couple of people have been able to drink this with me and enjoy it too, but for the most part, the guts of this over the last month, I have been enjoying. It's just fantastic, fantastic whiskey. It's really hard to reach past, but but on the label, it shouldn't be. This is virgin oak. This was filled into virgin oak. Okay, so immediately I'm starting to glitch. You know, virgin oak, filling it into virgin oak, fine. Then they've taken it out of the virgin oak and they've put it into an Islay cask. Well, it's already peated malt, so why would you put it in an Islay cask? But I suspect they've worked out that this has had enough time in virgin oak. Let's get into this Islay cask. Bottled at 6 years old, and it's difficult for me to articulate how good a whiskey this is. This is not the whiskey I'm sipping tonight. It doesn't make sense how this should work, but it does work. This is the best whiskey I've had from Glasgow Distillery today. It's wonderful, moreish, delicious. It's got this, sometimes when I'm sipping a whiskey, I think about the shape, I think about the way it arrives and things like that. And it's got this kind of big arrival, and then this kind of, that dips in the middle, kind of a little bit, this where you have to search for a bit of complexity and things like that. Then it's got this big, sticky finish. It's just a fantastic whiskey. So I have bought another. I was expecting the DHL man or whoever's going to bring it to deliver it today, but it didn't happen. Nor did I get the other bottle I would have loved to share with you tonight as well, and that is a bottle from Aberfeldy. Dewars Aberfeldy have just made a step change, and they have started to release much better presented whiskey. They've brought out a 15-year-old. I think it's a red wine finish, which is putting me off a wee bit, but you know, let's give it a chance. Red wine isn't necessarily my thing, but Dewars Aberfeldy, 15 years old. How much would you guess? 46% ABV. They've gone natural on it, I believe. £60. Now, Aberfeldy is a malt that I've loved in the past. Really delicate, really honey forward, rich honey, runny honey. It's really quite a nice little malt, but it's always been presented too low for me to actually get my head around it. And they, Douglas Lang have often done Aberfeldy independent bottlings and things like that. You can get a hold of it occasionally. It's not common, but there's never anything that's made me really get an idea of what it's capable of. The idea that they're going to start to bring out 46% natural whiskey and price it that fairly at that age statement, I'm in. All it needs is to be interesting. All it needs is to be good. Anyway, let's get back to Glasgow. Nice wee touch as well. They've got the locking tops. A bit like Highland Park. You need to give it a wee twist as well as a tug. Okay. So I don't have the Marsala. Well, look at the colour of that. Natural colour. Obviously, they've taken all its colour from its Madeira cask. I didn't pick up the Marsala. I tend to feel quite confident about Madeira matured or Madeira finished whiskies. I think Madeira works really, really well in my experience with Scotch whiskey. I love the kind of orangey nature. I like the kind of serene malt loaf and ginger cake type notes that I get from Madeira. It's just kind of something that I enjoy. I really like it. 58% ABV cast strength on this one. Only 298 bottles, actually. That's something to look out for on 303 bottles. So these genuinely are small batch. It is very parochial. But like I say, if you're traveling through Glasgow, if you're traveling through the UK, even if you're traveling through Europe, I would suggest you look out for something from Glasgow and get your head round what new distilleries are capable of doing. Quite spiced and fudgy. A lot of heat. A lot of ABV. I think I'm just anaesthetising my nose by sticking it in there, 58%, right? But the sherry is not kind of, it's not sherry, it's Madeira. Okay, it's Madeira. But it seems to be quite in check. It is orangey. Orange peel, sweet, sharp, zesty orange. Almost like a charred orange peel. There's not a lot of peat on here, not a lot of smoke. I have just come into this on the back of the Ardnahoe, though, which is very peaty. That kind of malt loaf ginger cake thing is here. Moist, squidgy, you know, that maybe you have to be in the UK to know what I'm talking about. Serene malt loaf. Ginger cake. People know what ginger cake is, right? And I kind of toffee chocolate type sweetness. Like, I wonder if anybody remembers what a Caramac is. I'm into all the kind of... Anyway, cheers. Okay, now there's more. There's more confectionery coming now. There's a cinnamon daredevils, gobstoppers, and they're big boiled confectionery, like a bit of tunes, cherry tunes. This is far too specific, Roy. You need to be okay. Like boiled sugary sweets, medicinal sweets. So there's some eucalyptus and menthol and various things in there as well. That's here. Boiled sweets, confectionery, sugar sweet, toffee, big, loud, boomy. This is not a delicate, quiet, shy whiskey. This is your rowdy pal. You need to be careful. All right. Smoke is much more quieter than you might expect. Again, it's on the back of that Ardnahoe. The thing that leads here is definitely cask. The peaty spirit is kind of comes along second. It's the cask, it's the Madeira, it's the orangey, it's the ginger, it's the sweet, it's the confectionery, it's all those big loud notes from the cask. It's in all my gums. It's on my gums. It's on my cheeks, right across my palate, everywhere. 58% is helping, of course. I've shared with you some fantastic value whiskies tonight. Discounted special releases, heavily discounted in some cases. A fantastic range of whiskies from Signatory Vintage at fantastic prices. I think this is the best value in whiskey right now. It is for the people who love the provenance, for the people who love the official releases from the official distilleries, from the people who love the idea that it's an exclusive and limited, people that love the idea that it's put together carefully, handpicked, agonized over time and time again, that it's put out there naturally, honestly, in a nice aesthetic little package with a story behind it, personality behind it, for £59. £59. I think the only thing that can beat something like that is that Ella cask finish. It's an outstanding whiskey for the price. It's an outstanding whiskey for by any metric you want to measure it by. But bear in mind, caveat it with the fact that we're speaking about 6-year-old malt whiskey from a young distillery here. That's implicit, I hope, in everything that I say. But just £59 for these things. It won't last forever. It can't last forever. But while it's available here now, and I hope that they're successful in making money out of it, we'll get behind it, and we'll support these type of companies that do this type of thing ethically, fairly, great value, just fantastic. And remember, I'm close to I'm really excited that there's quality whiskey coming out of Glasgow again. It's wonderful. So there's a bias there. But I'm also very, very aware that I'll be called upon the bias. So if I sense that there's a thing that I might be a wee bit biased about, I'm probably likely to go about it a wee bit more gingerly, because I don't want to meet you in real life and say, Roy, I love this and I love the next thing, but you sold me a pup on that one, didn't you? I just don't want that to ever happen. I want to be able to look you in the eye when I meet you and you say, you know that one that you were talking about that you loved? Aye, I loved it too. That's what I want. Finally, Dan is saying, watch praising those locking tops, Aquaviti. I got a real tongue licking from Ralphie for calling them that, because he said only a Tantalus does that. Oh, right. We've got to be careful. We don't want to get on the wrong side of the Ralphie, right? Good to see you. And finally, Dan, Mikey is saying, I had a Caramac last weekend. Sevi brought me a Caramac. What's the chances of it being where we left it? Hold on. Sevi being Sevi, what a guy. He brings over, he drops off a wee delivery of bottles and a wee bottle exchange. And in the bag he just pulls this out. He says, here, Roy, do you want a Caramac? I've not tasted this since I was, I don't know, a teenager maybe. I don't know how long it's been. But it seems like they're either still available or that they're back. This is neither chocolate or fudge or tablet. I don't know what this is. I don't know what category of thing this is, but it's a very, very unique flavour. The caramel flavoured bar, they're calling it. Caramac. So you can basically, you maybe see there's a wee picture of it on the back that will show you the colour of it. So it's not chocolate coloured. It's kind of like a light beige brown, creamy brown colour. Anyway, Mikey, hey, I hope you're enjoying yours. I might give this a wee crack and just open it up. I might share it with my kids. I'm pretty confident my kids have never tried a Caramac. Mac1 is saying you can still buy Caramac. Fantastic. Obviously, me mentioning the Caramac is the tasting note. Whiskey Novice Jim. Caramac has always been one of my most used tasting notes. And cherry tunes, if only everyone knew. That's right, cherry tunes. It's definitely in this. Jimmy Legg is saying, you are the rowdy pal I need to be careful of. Well, I'll take the rowdy. And I'll take the pal, especially the pal. And Jimmy's saying, you'll be disappointed, Roy. Caramac is not what it used to be, but neither is nostalgia. I like what you did there. Jimmy Legg is saying, I would not eat anything that Sevi gave me. That's a lie. I know that's a lie. I'm looking for something because somebody's just dished out a lot of memberships. Doodle Drams saying, catch the rest on replay. This is a great vPub. Nothing better than hearing and reading others blethering about new discoveries. Thank you. Thank you, Arnie. Thank you for hanging out with us. It's a shame. I hope you pick up the quiz on the replay. Jimmy Legg is saying, well, Roy, I have to thank you for the staff mill sample. It's sherry and I like it. I gave you a sherry daff mill. Did I? I think the only sherry daff mill I've got is in a sample bottle. I'll maybe give you some of that. Anyway. Glad you're enjoying it. I wish I'd given you some real daft mill as well along with it. Anyway, George P has gifted 10 Aquavitae memberships. George, thank you very, very much for your generosity, and I hope some lucky folk have been able to pick it up. Cheers, George. Cheers, Jimmy Legg. Thank you for your dram, and cheers, Arnie. Doodle the dram. I've got a wee special bottle, but it's, again, if we're talking about Glasgow Distillery, small batch, being a kind of parochial, privileged because of the location I live type release, the next one is even more so the case. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep it till the end. My last Glencairn that is not chipped. I'm going to keep until after the quiz. I'm just going to say to everybody, thank you for participating with me tonight. Like I say, this was almost a vPub that never happened. I didn't feel particularly confident just to turn up and just have new bottles to share. But if you enjoy it, leave a wee like, because it might encourage me to just kick back and not care so much about what the content is and more about the fact that it's just having a nice hangout with everyone of a Thursday evening in the future. Please consider staying for the quiz at the end to see how you got on. I love watching how the numbers just go like, and I know it's not because people are afraid of the quiz. I think it's just quizzes tend to be things that not everyone is excited about, right? I get it. I understand it completely. Okay. Jimmy's saying, you're in luck. Ebhead gave me a real sample of Daft Mill. Fantastic. So you've got a nice, fresh, bready kind of fantastic. I hope you enjoy that one too, Jimmy Legg. And if it's come from Ebhead, chances are that it's probably going to be a decent wee sample too. Justin Wan has bought me a dram to say going to head out, but I'll keep you in my ear, and this is going to be the last vPub before I head to Glasgow. Oh, terrific, because you have to leave early from Hong Kong, don't you? So you won't catch the one next week before Glasgow Whisky Festival weekend. Justin, I'm looking forward to welcoming you back in Glasgow again, buddy. Can't wait for that. Hell's is saying, happy for you to just turn up and have a blether aquavitae. Well, it's interesting, Helen, isn't it? Because usually the lock-ins that I do for patrons, they never have a theme, and it's just a blether, and people seem to be okay with that. But vPubs have always kind of hung on a theme. There was a theme tonight, but it was a kind of a thin theme. Here's some new bottles. Maybe that's enough. Greg's Whisky Guide is saying, that was cool, Roy, and we're still learning something each time. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, my friend. That's a nice thing for you to say, buddy. And Antonio D is saying, never tried the Ardnamurchan Sauterne or the rum. I have both up there. Sauterne is my pick. The rum is much more specific. I think there are people out there that love the rum. I've met them. There's, oh, the rum cask. But for me, the Sauterne is, not only is it a much more enjoyable thing for me, but it's much more easy thing to pour for other people too. I think it's a much more easy thing to understand. Daniel Williams is celebrating being a member of the Barflies for 46 months and saying, remember to like and subscribe. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you so much, buddy. It does make a big difference, because you see a lot of the vPubs where nobody mentions, or I don't mention, I don't remind anyone to like or whatever, because I don't always remember to like, right? You see the difference. It can be the difference between 200 and 400 likes. So, you know, and why is that important? Well, and YouTube apparently like it, but more than anything, it's like people happen upon the video and say, why is this guy talking for 2.5 hours about whiskey? But if they see likes, that it's legitimate discussion, hopefully, if you think it's legitimate discussion, leave a like. Peter Lee's bought me a dram. Great to have you back. I hope you've enjoyed your holiday. I've had a great break too. Where did you go? Glasgow Whisky Festival looks like it's going to be a great weekend. Look after Denise and Amy for me, please. I will be more than happy to do that for you, Peter. I hope the time in Spain was regenerative, and I hope you had a brilliant time. I was up the west coast. I went up to the Ardnamurchan Peninsula, stayed in a wee village called Strontian for the week, and we did a lot of traveling about the west coast. Managed to make it out to Mull. The weather wasn't looking great. We got hit by Storm Ashley. We got a power cut. We were without power for the first evening and overnight, but it was fine. It was absolutely fine. The log burner and candles, it was great. So we had a really good weekend, exactly what the doctor ordered. Nice to have you back, buddy. Look forward to seeing you soon. Don't worry about Amy. Don't worry about Denise. Jim Whisky Novice is celebrating being a member for 55 months. Don't forget to like. He's reminding everyone in Hakan. My pal Hakan, good to see you. He's just bought me a very generous dram and a wee love emoji as well. Peter Lee, Whisky Novice Jim, Daniel Williams in the Netherlands, my pal Justin Wan in Hong Kong, Whisky Novice in Northern Ireland. Thank you all for your support. Cheers to you all. Now let's see if I can make this quiz work. It's not going to be easy. Because I have to do it via screen share tonight because the software is not playing. It doesn't want to work. Hopefully we can get by. If your screen flashes a wee bit, don't worry, it's flashing on my side as well. Have to keep it to a minimum. I suspect we're going to be doing this same thing with the OSWAs at the weekend too. It's just the way it potentially has to be. Now, if I flick to the chat while we're doing that, it doesn't flick on the broadcast. That's really, really good. I can flick backwards and forwards. We'll make this work. Good luck, everyone. If you're staying for the quiz at the end, remember, you're only playing against yourself. You can keep your scores to yourself if you want. If you want to lean on the crowd and pull a wee bit of hints from them or whatever it is, you just play along. It's just for fun. Multiple choice as always. There will be banana skins. There will be ass hats. I would suggest that this is not going to be the hardest quiz ever, but don't consider it's going to be particularly easy either. I would put it into closer to tricky tonight than closer to easy. Good luck, everyone. Question 1. Which of these distilleries feature a core range that has 10 or 12-year-old, but also a 15-year-old and 18-year-old, but according to their website, is currently missing their 21-year-old? So we're looking for that standard kind of blueprint core range of either a 10 to 12 start or a 15 and 18, but currently one range that's missing its potential 21-year-old. A, Highland Park, B, Glendronach, or C, Glencadam? Standard core range. Some people change their entry level point, right? Some people have a no age statement. All of these guys do, or a lower age statement, let's say. But they choose between a 10 and a 12. Then they can often have a 15 and 18. But one of these are currently missing a 21. Ooh. Justin Wan is saying C, but maybe A, B, C. Almost absolutely everyone is saying C. Antonio's even typing out Glencadam. C is the one I miss, says the One Glass Man. Good seeing, Warner. Fantastic. I hope you're doing well. P. Ed is saying possibly more than one. I can tell you all that there's a banana skin here tonight. So often on question 1, it'll be a freebie. It'll be all correct answers, but that's not the case tonight. There is 1 correct answer, 2 correct answers. But if you really push it with me, 3 correct answers. Glencadam, because of its closed dates, currently have their 21-year-old not available. Glendronach, their 21-year-old Parliament was not part of their rebrand. It didn't get the new paint that the other Allardyce 18, the 15-year-old Revival, and the 12-year-old original got. So they are currently without the 21-year-old. Highland Park just went through another rebranding as well. The 21-year-old did not get that treatment. So on their website, they have 10 expressions, 6 of them the new branding. But if you look for the 4 of the old branding, it includes the 40, the 30, the 25, and the 21. So you can include that if you would like to. However, the reason that Highland Park is greyed out is you still can buy, and it is still part of their core range, the 21-year-old. Depends on how you want to define it. Question 2, which West Coast distillery has just released, as part of the McLean series, a Derrick? Which West Coast distillery just released a Derrick? A, Ardnamurchan, B, Glenfarclas, C, Oban. Well, I'm not catching anybody that didn't pick that out. Even Rick Johnson's put a 0 in there, but it's 0-1. He's got 1 for 1 as well. Keep on Track. That looks like a new name, Keep on Track. Nice to have you joining us. Harrow's saying Glendronach don't have that old stuff. Wonder how much of the old stuff they actually have left, right? Camper Van Travels in Dora. Good to see you. I always seem to pick up that name in the quiz at the end. Terrific. B is Speyside, lol. A Derrick or a Dalek, just saying lol. No, Greg, we're actually talking about the name Derrick. Yeah, the name Derrick. Gordon Fraser is saying guessing. Well, Gordon, You know, there's a wee Dramface logo there. So if you pick up the news section on Dramface, you've got a chance of picking this up a wee bit better. But the Maclean series was originally Teddy the grandfather, Teddy the father, and now the grandson, the Maclean grandson, is Derek. So we're talking about Oban Distillery. Oban has just released a Derek. And that completes their trilogy of the Maclean series to celebrate people that work at the distillery, which is a nice touch, a really nice touch. Unfortunately, it's over 200 quid, which is, if you celebrate people, it should really be attainable by people. It's just, anyway, sorry, I don't want to spoil it. Good for the Macleans. What is Glen Turner today? What is Glen Turner? Glen Turner is A, a brand Roy just made up, or B, Glen Turner is an expensive Indian blended whiskey, or C, Glen Turner is a single malt made at Glenmurray. What is Glen Turner? Now, I suspect there's one or two people in the chat that will know instantly what Glen Turner is because of their location. Just up the road from me, says Ben, Whiskey with Molly. Yep. So you know what Glen Turner is, Ben? Jimmy Legg is saying a race car driver. Lassie York Thoughtsman is in. Good to see you, Lassie. Ginger Genius thinks it's C. Hakan is saying traditional Indian name. Road to Dra. Everybody thinks it's C. Leonard from the crowd says, Justin Wan, hard quiz today. Well, we're only 3 questions in, buddy, but you're absolutely spot on. It's not something I made up. It's not an expensive Indian blended whiskey. I don't think there's much of a market for an expensive Indian blended whiskey, but it is a single malt made at Glenmurray. I don't know if I have seen it a couple of times in my life. I don't know if I've seen it locally to me, but France is the market for this. This is Glenmurray. In modern terms, this is Glenmurray single malt, sold as a single malt. The non-age statement one there, and a 12-year-old you can see on screen there, mostly sold to the French market. Glen Turner is a Glenmurray single malt. I did try and help you a wee bit there by, as it was pointed out, just to try and make the other ones a wee bit silly in order for you to get this. Let's roll into question 4. I am a Glen distillery. I'm located close to many others in Speyside. I'm family owned and I have a strong following from across the world. I feature direct fired stills and I'll celebrate 200 years of whiskey making in 2036. Who am I? This is just a really long-winded way to say which of these distilleries was founded in 2036. A, Glenfiddich in Speyside. B, Glengarry. C, Glenfarclas. A Glen distillery, family-owned, direct-fired. 2036 will be their 200-year anniversary. Sorry, the distillery that's founded in 1836. I don't know what I said back then. Question 4. We're still on the easy side of the quiz, so don't overthink it. Graham Young's bought me a dram. Nice to catch snippets tonight. Nose into a medical book for a course tomorrow, but a wee Ardnahoe and a glass for support. Graham, thanks very much for the virtual dram, my friend. It sounds like a nice way to have some medicinal late night study focus helping support. Cheers to you, Graham. Is Glenfiddich family owned? A really big and wealthy family, says Justin Wan. Yeah, the Grants, it's still family owned, but is it the answer to my question? I can tell you that a Speyside distillery, family owned, big following, direct fired stills, founded in 1836, is Glenfarclas. 1882 for Glenfiddich, I think. Most of the other things would have stood for that. Glengarry was founded, Glengarry is not a Speyside, of course, it's an Eastern Highlander. Question 5 is an image. Things are going to start to get a bit trickier from here on in, everyone, okay? Here is a branding image. Quite a cool image, I think, but an eerie image, a Halloween-esque image, would you say? We're looking at a distillery here, a silhouette, but this is specifically taken from their branding rather than a photograph. Are we looking at A, Altmore, B, Lagavulin, or C, Scapa? Whiskey Slayer is in. Good to see you, Whiskey Slayer. Great tour, says Hoyt. Big Ed is here. Bruce Bernard, Papa Q. Paul Murray. Paul, that might be the first time I've welcomed you. Sharmilla Suze, good to see you in, Sharmilla. Good to see you in, Paul. Good to welcome you both. Scott McIntyre, good to see you, Scott. Antonio D. Daisy is in. Good to see you, Daisy, from the Netherlands. Fantastic to see you. My pal Sid Martin is here. Where's Roy from Norway is here too. Fantastic to see you all. And Jim Whiskey Novice saying A then. Everybody's thinking it's A. Got to be the Foggy Moss, says David Owen in Germany. Too slow, Rob. Good to see you, buddy. And Fernando's saying A. I'm just going to go with you guys, he's saying. Great stuff. All right. I can tell you that it's a good strategy. We are looking at Altmore of the Foggy Moss. Specifically, this image is taken from their 18-year-old. Absolutely delicious whiskey, a bit pricey at £135 these days. I've just picked up a second bottle of their 12-year-old for me, which was a much more affordable and attainable £55. There's stories of that being made or being discontinued. I really hope that's not the case. But this one's taken from their 18. Question 6. Which of these companies in need of peated malt is behind a planning application submitted in 2023 to build a new distillery at Gartbreck Farm on Islay? So somebody's after peated malt. They don't have enough of it right now, so they plan to build a distillery on Islay. Yes, you can make peated malt anywhere in Scotland, but, you know, to put a planning permission in 2023 at Gartbreck Farm, it's either A, Sheavis Brothers, B, Angus Dundee, or C, White and Mackay. Which of those three are waiting to see if they're going to be able to build at Gartbreck Farm? Sounds like a Clynelish story, Aquavite. Nope, nothing to do with Diageo, buddy. Now, out of all the wee drams I've got in the glass, I've got a wee teaspoon left of each one. A wee dribble left. A wee teaspoon of that. A wee teaspoon of that. A wee teaspoon of that. Just to taste them all. But weirdly, the one that I've finished is this Ardnahoe. Let's get a wee drop back. I did say it was Moorish. No, I mean needing a peated malt. Ah, okay, yeah. Says Jimmy Legg, talking about Clynelish. Whiskey with Molly saying, so you have more left than the Brora and the Sutherland. You could make a teaspooned blend. Yeah, of course. All my wee teaspoons, a literal teaspoon blend. All right, this is splitting the crowd a wee bit here. And I can understand why, but interestingly, being the knowledgeable whiskey folk that you are, you've gone for Sheavis Brothers, which is Pernod Ricard, and you're absolutely spot on. Originally, this was Glenarmore from France. It was trying, the company behind them were trying to get behind the Gartbreck project. But in 2023, there was planning permission submitted. I don't know what state it's at. I don't know how quickly it's going to. I don't even know if there's still an appetite for it. Sheavis Brothers gets a lot of its peated malt from externally, from Altavania. There are some of its other own distilleries make peated malt as well, but they were trying to be a bit more self-sustainable, and that's what they went down the Islay route. I don't know if there's still the appetite to do that. Question 7. It's getting tricky here. Let's see who can keep it going till the end. Which of these distilleries, reopening, by the way, in 2025, two ends in there, sorry about the typo, has been forced to close down and expand due to a 300% increase in sales in the last decade. This distillery is so successful that they are currently shut and reopening next year. Which distillery am I talking about? A. Glencadam in the Eastern Highlands, B. Dalmore in the Northern Highlands, or C. Talisker in the Western Highlands. Which of those distilleries is currently closed through necessary expansion? Greg is saying, interestingly, prior to that, Roy, a French distillery tried to locate one too, but Hunter Lang brand didn't want that to happen, as I understood it. The project was stopped then. I don't know if Hunter Lang would have the clout or anything. I didn't hear anything about that side, but Gart Breck was originally, it was a French company that was behind it originally, Greg. You're right, Glenarmore, according to the Malt Whisky Yearbook. I typed too slowly, Greg is saying. We've got a lot of words to type, Greg. I wonder how you're getting on in the quiz, buddy. Glenarmore was changed to Celtic Whisky Distillery since their recent takeover. Glenarmore is still their unpeated single malt brand, and Cornog their peated one. Thanks for sharing the insight and the wisdom, buddy. Thought Dalmore was an E150A blending company, says Petehead. C changed to B, was extended. C, going with crowd, says Sharmila Suze. You're perfectly entitled to do so. This is the quiz at the end. It's exactly what it's all about. B, C is later. Harrow is saying Whiskey Weekend Dram. C, well, Harrow, there has been a planning application being submitted for Talisker, but that's still at the consultancy phase. Nothing has been decided. Glencadam has already completed its renovations. It is Dalmore has increased its sales so significantly in the last 10 years that they are in desperate need to expand. Quite amazing, the difference between what we enjoy and drink and what has been successfully sold out there in the world. Question 8. In terms of sales volume by case, Laphroaig is the #1 on Islay. The best-selling Islay single malt is Laphroaig, but I'm asking who takes up the second spot? Who's #2 on Islay? A. Bowmore, B. Bunnahabhain, C. Lagavulin. Bowmore, Bunnahabhain, or Lagavulin? Who has got the #2 spot on Islay? Big Ed is saying, I should have went with my first choice. Some people are starting to slip. Sharmila's on a 5 out of 7. You've already got your pass mark. You're in good shape. Daisy's on a strong 7. Fantastic, along with Rick, David Owen, Peter Lee. Where's Roy in Norway? Graham Fraser. Frank Petehead has slipped up. He's on a 6, along with Bruce Bernard, Jerry Miller. Daniel Williams is on a 6. Whiskey with Molly Ben on a 6. Peter Box on a 6. Justin Wance, a strong 7. I thought you were supposed to be in bed, Justin, already. You're in Hong Kong. Crazy, crazy, man. Nicholas is 7. 6 for Warner. Ginger's Genius on a 7. Daniel Key, good to see Daniel on a 6. Jimmy Legg, 7 for 8. Okay, how are we doing for question 8? Come on. What's the second bestseller on Islay after Laphroaig? This is splitting the crowd. B. Bowmore. Sorry, A. Bowmore, B. Bunnahabhain, and C for Lagavulin. Justin is saying it's 8 in the morning. I went out to run some errands. I'm in the subway now. You're a superstar. What a guy. Fantastic. Hope the jet lag looks after you when you travel over, buddy. I can tell you that so many of you are correct. There's always been a fight between two distilleries for position 2. According to the Malt Whisky Yearbook, it's between Bowmore and Lagavulin, but recently Lagavulin has taken the second spot. So if you said C for Lagavulin, give yourself a point as we roll into the second from last question. What is true about Scotland's most easterly located malt distillery? I'm going to give you 3 facts. You have to figure out which fact is correct about Scotland's most easterly distillery. A, it's located on an island. B, it's associated with a brand of beer. Or C, it's also the southernmost located. Question 9 is never ever going to be an easy question. But you folk are particularly knowledgeable. Ginger Genius is upset with a 7 out of 8. That's an amazing score. David Honor, a 7 out of 8 as well. Wow, I think that Lagavulin question has taken the wheels off a lot of people. Uh-oh. Just lost my YouTube feed. I hope my broadcast is going okay. I've lost the chat. It looks like I'm still going. So much weird tech issues been happening recently. We're in. We're okay. When I needed it the most, the chat window just froze. We still see you. Okay, good. I'm glad that it worked. Did anything freeze? Did it jam up or something? Can you still see the quiz and everything? It looks okay from my side. Okay. I can tell you that Scotland's most easterly located malt distillery is in Lerwick on Shetland, which means it is not Brewdog, associated with a brand of beer. It is not the southernmost. It is located on an island. There's a wee map here just to show you. Not only is it the most easterly, but it's clear east of all of the Scottish mainland, way up there. So the northernmost distillery these days is now the most eastern. Lerwick Distillery. There we go. How are we getting on before we go into the asshat at the end? How can I say all good our side, Roy? Yeah, I got an snap Google Chrome message up on my chat windows and my YouTube feed, but this says it's going well, so it's okay. We continue. 6 out of 9 for Ben, Whiskey with Molly. 7 out of 9 for David. Owen slipped up at the end. 7 out of 9 for A. Martins. Good to have you in, A. Martins. Sid Martin on a 6. Gordon Fraser on a 3 out of 9. Mince, he's saying. You're going to struggle for a pass mark now, buddy. You're going to need to get 2 in the last one. Petehead on a 6. So everybody was strong. It's the way it's a quiz at the end. It's the vPub. It's what it does. The questions get harder and harder and harder. I don't see any 9 out of 9s tonight. Hard quiz, Menno, is that you? Is Menno still even in? Okay, let's go into the asshat at the end. Just to see how much harder it can become. The asshat is deliberately obtuse. You're supposed to know the answer to 2 things. Worm tub distilled malt remains curiously favoured by enthusiasts. But how many distilleries are producing with this condenser type today? How many worm tub distilleries are there? The exact same number as the number of A, operational Scotch malt distilleries beginning with B, or the exact same number as B, Diageo distilleries operating outside of Speyside, or C, the exact same number of current core range releases from Highland Park. Just asking you to tell me how many worm tub distilleries there are. How many worm tub distilleries are operating today? And is that number the same as the amount of Scotch malt distilleries beginning with B, the amount of Diageo distilleries that are not in Speyside, or does it match with the current core range release count from Highland Park, according to their website? I ignore core range HB, says Daisy. Lachlan is saying, just, he says, just. Paul Murray is saying, I'll go A. Pierre is going B. Daisy is also going B. Finally, Donna is saying, bollocks, set question. Service a laugh. It's good to see Andreas. Good to have you in participating. Okay, okay. I can tell you for the ass hat at the end. The operational Scotch malt distilleries beginning with B, there are 20. Diageo distilleries outside of Speyside are 12. They have 18 inside Speyside. Current core range releases from Highland Park, they have 10. They have the 3 travel exclusives. They have the 3 newly branded ones and the 4 I mentioned to you earlier. And I think I did indeed tell you that there's 10 core range currently on the Highland Park website earlier tonight. It matters not to you because there are 20 worm tub distilleries operating today. I can give you a list of those if you would like. It might take me a second to do so, but I can tell you what they are. The worm tub distilleries are Ardnahoe. This is in perhaps in alphabetical order or by owner, I think. Ardnahoe and Isla, Ballindalich, Binrinnis, Brora, Glenkinchie, Craigenmore, Dalwhinnie, Glenelgin, Mortlach, Oban, Royal Loch Nagar, Talisker, Craigellachie, Erdridge, Balmenic, Knockdhu, Old Pulteney, Speyburn, Rosebank, and Springbank. And I suspect that in the imminent years ahead, we're going to see a few more of those. So there you have it. That is your quiz. I suspect that nobody, maybe if you picked up a 10 out of 10 on this quiz and the replay, shout about it loudly in the comments, because I suspect the knowledgeable whiskey folk that were joining live tonight came a cropper after strong starting tonight. Paul Murray, 8 out of 10. Wow, I'm pleasantly surprised on that one. I have to say, Paul, 8 out of 10 on that quiz tonight is a banger of a score. Christoph Meyer as well, 8 out of 10. Thanks, Lounge. Thank you for your honesty, Christoph, and a great score. Trevor Hedge, 7 out of 10. Tremendous, Trevor. Nice to have you in. I don't know, I feel like I might have welcomed you before, but maybe not. Welcome in, my friend. Springbank is only one of 3. This is Jimmy Legg, Springbank. Oh, I see what you mean there. I see what you mean. 3 brands, of course. Finally, Donna saying, yep, 7 out of 10. Great quiz. Put us all in our seats at the end, Aquavite. Well, it's always going to decide to get a wee bit harder. So what I tend to do is I build the quiz up and then I sort them by the hardest question to put it out to the end, and the easiest ones get dragged forward. But I'm quite surprised. I thought somebody might be able to squeak it. Did you know why nobody's got a 10 out of 10 tonight? Graham Fraser. As far as I'm aware, he's maybe not here tonight. Maybe if Graham was in, he'd have managed to squeeze a wee 10 out of 10. What do we think? Anyway, let's get rid of this. Let's stop the screen share now. I know that it should be just me. Anyway, thank you for permitting me to have a wee bit of a lazy vPub tonight. I suspect that given the OSWAs at this weekend and Glasgow Whisky Festival next weekend, that maybe if you'll forgive me next week too, I might try and come up with a similarly lazy topic. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how you feel about it as well. You can let me know how you feel in the comments underneath. Finally, then is saying, yep, 7 out of 10. Great quiz. Put us all in our seats. I did pick that one up. Graham Fraser is here. He's saying also Stirling and the Cabrach, also operating with Worm Tubs Roy. And of course, Cabrach is now up and running. So we now have 22. It doesn't change that to ask that question at the end because it's still the closest one. 10 and 12 being the other 2. But fantastic to have you in, buddy. Jimmy Legg is saying 1 of 3 worm tubs. I did pick these up. Why has it jumped up? Whiskey with Molly Bennett saying, might not be able to attend the event next Friday. I'll put it up in the Facebook page if I can't go. Aquavite, please speak to me about that. Please speak to me about that, Ben, because I'm running a list. There's people that can't get in who are desperate to get in. I've run a reserve list so that if anybody drops out, please come back to me. Your place will be picked up, no problem. Super laid back vPub this evening says, Helen, Helen and Andy, cheers, Roy. Cheers right back at you. Rick Johnson is saying, we need a worm tub icon. That's a good idea, Rick. Aye. Graham Fraser saying, 8 out of 10 for me tonight. So you managed an 8. So you were here, buddy. I just didn't spot you. Must have been a tough one tonight. P-Head is saying, oops. And that, I call it a day and going to hit the sack. Thanks for being lazy, Aquavite. And to all of you, see you next week and during Glasgow Whisky. I can't wait to see you again, big guy. Looking forward to it. Thanks for hanging out tonight. Enjoy the OSWAs, says Ben. Wife's birthday, so out for dinner. Thank you, Ben. I hope you have a fantastic weekend on Saturday. The weekend and a fantastic birthday for your wife. I'll see you at some point soon. Looking forward to seeing so many of you in Glasgow. Cheers all. Cheers, Aquavite. Looking forward to it as well. Looking forward to having you back, Jim. And Daisy is saying thank you for a fabulous vPub. Good night all and see you on Saturday. Excited for the results. Whiskey Weekend Dram Harrow is saying, what is your last bottle? I thought somebody was going to remind me. Well, while I was on holiday, I could not be up on the Ardnamurchan Peninsula and not take a wee trip up to the distillery. As I hinted earlier, to the trip. I didn't take a tour or anything. The family was there. They waited patiently in the car until they worked out that there was a dog in the distillery, a collie, a fantastic wee dog called Ben. And suddenly all the family come in to see the dog and I can spend a few more minutes there. So while I'm there, I get a chance to try their distillery hand pour, which is Golden Promise. A Golden Promise Oloroso Octave, 50 quid. 50 cl bottle, 50 cl bottle. But when you visit Ardnahoe, sorry, I've switched them around twice tonight. When you visit Ardnamurchan, you go to the distillery, you can go in there and pick up a whiskey, a bottle of whiskey that you can only buy there, and you will not be bumped over the head. You will not feel like you've been robbed. You will get a good value, high-end, fantastic whiskey. And I thank you for visiting them. This cannot be difficult to do. £50 for something as exclusive, as rare, and as delicious as this. When we talk about texture in whiskey, you have to sip something like this to understand what we're talking about. Young, potent, fiery, loud, shouty, viscous, thick, coating, juicy, fat, chewable, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful stuff. Heritage grain barley, of course, Golden Promise, 50 quid a bottle, like I say, 50 cl, doesn't matter. What a souvenir to be able to take away. That's the something special. That's the something special that I brought back from my holiday last week. Whiskey Wine Trails, Tom, absolutely good value. Brought this home with me. You would have picked up one of the earlier ones as well, Tom. One of the ones that everybody was raving about. Fantastic. Your timing was perfect. Jimmy Legg has bought me a wee dram to say love you, man. Right back at you, Jimmy Legg. I love you too, son. Thank you so much. Thanks for another great vPub, says Alberto. And see many of you in Glasgow next week. Alberto, I cannot wait. Finally done. Laid back vPubs are great. Really enjoyed. Thank you. Finally done. I would like to do more laid back vPubs. Believe me, Whiskey and Wine Trails, Tom, is just terrific to have you in, buddy, from Arizona. And Harrow's saying, if you make it so far, the only thing you can do is get a bottle. You can't go much further than Ardnamurchan. You're in the sea, the most westerly point, right? And Dave the Brave is saying the Golden Promise need to do something right. Texture is the same with the Schmogan Askheim. Absolutely. Fantastic. Wonderful to have you all. Oh, Marcus Christensen is celebrating being a member for 11 months and saying, see you all in Glasgow in a week's time. Marcus, I almost missed that, buddy. Glad I caught it right at the end. What a wee terrific session. I loved it. Thank you for your indulgence. Thank you for letting me be a wee bit laid back and relaxed tonight. But we still managed to find that we filled 2 hours, 38 minutes. But it's a pleasure for me. And with a crazy, intense couple of busy weeks that I've had, this has felt like a wee break. A wee bit of time off, feet up, dram in hand. Love it. I look forward to this weekend. I look forward to welcoming you all at the OSWAs. It's Saturday at 6 o'clock. Can't wait. Sitting alongside Ralphie, sharing everything that you guys have voted for. Thereafter, I'll see you a week from tonight on Thursday, and as we all look forward to the Glasgow Whisky Festival weekend celebrations. Until then, I'll raise this glass and remind you all that you're very dearly loved. I'll see you soon. Slant your barflies. Slant your beautiful whisky folk. Cheers. 50 quid.